Chapter 94. Flame Controlling Technique. Late at night, everything was quiet. Occasionally, the rustling sound of a gentle breeze would be emitted from the quiet night. At this moment, the Joie family had become completely deserted. The brightly lit scene was no longer there. Only the candlelight of the night watchman drifted in the night. Inside the Hidden Dragon Pavilion, there was a brightly lit attic. In the room, a young man with a delicate face was silently sitting on a Kong. His slightly closed eyes slowly opened. Xiaohei, you should tell me about the method to recover the Nirvana demon flame, right? The young man tilted his head slightly and looked directly at Xiaohei on the wooden table. His clear voice also sounded with a thread of excitement surfacing within it. What an impatient person! Actually, it is not difficult to recover the Nirvana demon flame. Although the demon flame is a demonic creature, it can also be considered a kind of special flame. Moreover, the Nirvana demon flame is a kind of greedy demon flame that swallows. If you want it to recover, you can only let it continue to eat. Xiaohei played with its tail that looked like a dragon's tail. It curled up comfortably on the table as a lazy voice was emitted from its mouth. Eat? Eat what? You little fellow are stupid. The Nirvana demon flame swallows everything. However, the only thing that can allow it to continue to grow is flames. The Nirvana demon flame can only recover by swallowing other flames. You should know that there are many mysterious energies existing in this world. The Nirvana demon flame is one of them. Xiaohei gave the young man an expression that said, "You are really stupid." Immediately, it continued speaking. 10,000 years ago, the powerful alchemists loved these mysterious energies the most. Among them, the flame-type energy could help the alchemists increase the chances of forming a pill. The other types of energy could also be used in medicine to refine medicinal pills, and these pharmacists, who had nothing better to do, gave these strange energies a ranking. From high to low, they were divided into mortal, human, earth, heaven, emperor, shring, and god. What is interesting is that this ranking system is exactly the same as your current armor technique ranking. Clearly, some things from 10,000 years ago have been passed down until now. Perhaps your current era's ranking of the mysterious energies should also be using these 8 great ranks to differentiate them. So these mysterious energies actually have ranks? What level does the Nirvana demon flame belong to? Zhuowen's interest was also piqued as he asked with some anticipation. Glancing at the youth, the black puppy lazily turned around and lightly said, "It's barely at the mortal level. After all, its power is only comparable to the corporeal yang realm. This kind of low-level energy was everywhere tens of thousands of years ago, but now it's become a rare thing. Everyone is afraid of it. It seems that times are really regressing. Didn't you say that when the great calamity descended 10,000 years ago, it caused the inheritances and experts to be burned to the ground? So, it's normal for the current situation to occur, right? Alright, these things are too far away from me now. You should quickly tell me how to restore the might of the Nirvana demon flame." Zhuowen shrugged his shoulders and spoke in an indifferent manner. "That's true. Didn't you practice the fire attribute Ardent Sun Extinction? Moreover, you have already mastered it. There are 3 fireballs in your dantian. These fireballs have roughly reached the level of a common level flame. Take them and let the Nirvana demon flame devour them. This way, it can speed up the recovery of the Nirvana demon flame." When Zhuowen heard this, his face immediately revealed an expression of understanding. Previously, Zhuowen had tested the power of the 3 fireballs in his dantian. They were only equivalent to the all-out attack of a Nirvana realm warrior. Now that he had already advanced to the Yin Void realm, the fireballs had little effect on him. Therefore, he rarely used the 3 fireballs in his dantian during a battle. Moreover, after using the 3 fireballs, his body would suffer a certain backlash. However, ever since Zhuowen had practiced the violent blood beast body to the second sky of rampage, the quality of his body had far surpassed that of an ordinary warrior. Therefore, the backlash from the ardent sun extinction was almost negligible to him. Let's give it a try. Zhuowen did things without any hesitation. He tapped between his eyebrows and took out the jade tripod. The black flame at the fire vent at the bottom of the tripod appeared to be rather weak at this moment. Suddenly, he patted the top of the tripod and the black flame in the fire vent immediately flew into Zhuowen's palm. At this moment, the black flame was only the size of a palm. The fluctuation of the flame also became a little weak, like a small beast that was shivering. Staring at the black flame, Zhuowen's finger suddenly tapped the dantian in his lower abdomen. The fireball in his dantian suddenly shot out slowly from his mouth and finally stopped in front of the black flame. The black flame seemed to have felt the aura of the flame, and the fluctuation on its surface suddenly became violent. After that, under Zhuowen's astonished gaze, the black flame transformed into a big mouth and swallowed the fireball. It even started to chew it like a human. During the process of chewing, Zhuowen could clearly feel the aura of the black flame increasing continuously. The aura was no longer as weak as before. It faintly felt like it was expanding. It is indeed effective. Zhuowen's eyes hardened. A glint flashed across his eyes. Soon after, Zhuowen did the same thing and released the other 2 fireballs from his dantian. The black flame also greedily swallowed them. Its aura immediately soared by a couple of times. Its size also expanded from the size of a palm to the size of a human face. With your current recovery ability, you will be able to re-agglomerate 3 fireballs in your dantian in around half a day. You need to feed the Nirvana Demon Flame 3 fireballs every day. The Nirvana Demon Flame should be able to recover after 1 month. 1 month, huh? Zhuowen nodded. His face revealed a relaxed expression. He was able to accept 1 month's time. Brat, releasing all of the Nirvana Demon Flame during a fight is an extremely foolish method. In this way, a lot of energy will be wasted. If you are able to learn how to control the output of the Nirvana Demon Flame, the strength of the Nirvana Demon Flame will definitely be raised to another level. This is just like 2 warriors who have the same yuan power within their bodies. One has the assistance of an armor technique, while the other is randomly attacking. In that case, the result would naturally be that the former is stronger. Therefore, technique is sometimes more important than strength. Xiao Hei stretched her lazy waist and smacked her lips as she spoke. How can the Nirvana Demon Flame be so easy to control? Even though Yu Ding has already refined it, it is basically a fantasy if he wants to control it. Zhuowen's face was quite bitter as he spoke. Do you still remember the Divine Soul skill that this Dragon Master has passed to you? Isn't there a Fire Control chapter within it? The content of the Fire Control chapter is about how to use mental energy to control the flame. You should go and study it. After all, this Divine Soul skill is a top-level mental energy tempering technique that was passed down by the alchemists 10,000 years ago. Alright, I will leave first. You can slowly study it yourself. Xiao Hei rolled her eyes at Zhuowen. Immediately, she transformed into a black light and entered between Zhuowen's eyebrows. Zhuowen was startled. Immediately, he scratched his head in embarrassment. He had only studied the Divine Soul skill method of tempering mental energy. As for some small techniques, he had not tried them. Thinking of this, Zhuowen immediately shifted the Divine Soul skill in his mind. Indeed, he discovered the Fire Control chapter at the end. He was immediately overjoyed. The Fire Control chapter was very detailed. It introduced how to use mental energy to control a strong flame. Most of the methods in it were to control the flame to refine medicinal pills. Zhuowen only swept through this part of the content. What he really cared about was how to control the flame to fight. With the Supreme Dragon Cauldron, Zhuowen did not need to learn how to refine medicinal pills to obtain high-quality medicinal pills. After searching for a while, he indeed found a small technique to control the flame to fight at the end. This part was divided into an attack chapter and a defense chapter. However, the core was the flame transformation. In other words, using mental energy to control the flame's transformation. This transformation could be used to attack or defend. It was very flexible. Closing his eyes slightly, Zhuowen began to seriously comprehend this small technique in the fire control chapter. His expression was serene. Time flowed by. The long night passed in the blink of an eye. The pitch-black night in the outside world also gradually turned white. Finally, a ray of warm sunlight shone through the window and fell on the body of a youth sitting cross-legged. Perhaps it was because of the warm sunlight, the youth slowly opened his eyes. A ray of light was exposed from his eyes. The fire control technique using mental energy is indeed exquisite. It seems simple, but it is actually very difficult. However, I still have to give it a try. The youth's mouth revealed a bitter smile. Soon after, he took a deep breath and pointed between his eyebrows. He took out the black flame from the jade cauldron. Gazing at the black flame in his palm, the youth's mental energy surged out of his mud pill palace and gently wrapped the black flame. At first, the black flame was very resistant. However, after a while, it seemed to be able to feel that the mental energy was not malicious. Gradually, it became bolder and took the initiative to touch the mental energy. Slightly happy, the youth immediately used his mental energy to guide the black flame to slowly spread over his fist. In an instant, the youth's fists were burning with rolling black flame, which looked quite strange. It seems that I can only control the black flame to cover my fists. However, compared to the battle strength, it has improved a lot. He knew that if the fire control technique was refined, then he could control the flame to change it into weapons with high lethality, such as sabers and spears. Now, he could only cover his fists with a thin layer of black flame. However, even such a thin layer of black flame was very powerful. The void armor on the body of a warrior in the void realm had amazing defensive power, but under the fist covered with black flame, it was like nothing. Now, Zhuowen was confident that if he faced Wang Meng again, he would not need to use the armor technique. He only needed to use such a small trick to defeat or even kill Wang Meng. After all, the black flame was too restrictive for a warrior in the void realm. With the help of the black flame, Zhuowen's strength would definitely increase by a few levels. Phew! It's time to go to the governor's mansion to find out about the Vitality Tower. Lightly sighing, Zhuowen put away the Nirvana demon flame. After a simple wash, he directly pushed open the door and headed for the governor's mansion. The governor's mansion was located at the main gate of Rattan Armor City. It was said that there were far more experts than the three big families and the security was much stricter. About an hour later, a palace-like building appeared in front of Zhuowen. There were many pavilions inside and the levels were clearly defined. Moreover, the main entrance was formed by a vermilion door that was several meters tall. On both sides of the door, there were two huge stone lions sitting there, appearing majestic. Inside the gate, two armored guards stood upright on both sides, looking meticulous. Zhuowen's pupils shrank slightly. He could feel that these two guards were definitely experts in the void realm. He did not expect that the guards at the gate were also experts in the void realm. It seemed that the governor's mansion was really powerful. Stop! When he came to the gate, the two guards immediately reached out to stop him. They coldly examined the young man in front of them. Just as Zhuowen was about to identify himself, a familiar voice came from behind him. Chapter 95. Conspiracy. Tilting his head slightly, Zhuowen immediately saw a smiling young man standing behind him. When he saw Zhuowen looking over, the smile on the young man's face grew even wider. "Brother Zhuowen, I believe you are here to see the city lord," the young man said with a graceful smile. Zhuowen's gaze narrowed slightly as he stared at the smiling young man. He said indifferently, "I never thought that I would run into young Master Gu Shang at the entrance. May I ask why young Master Gushang has come to the entrance instead of staying in the estate so early in the morning? Looking at the smiling Gushang in front of him, Zhuowen secretly raised a trace of vigilance in his heart. During the battle in the market yesterday, he clearly saw the hatred in Gushang's eyes. Furthermore, he did not hesitate to let his father, Gu Lai, tamper with the market battle. If it were not for the city lord, Gu Yu Tian's intervention, it was likely that things would not have ended well. Now that Gushang had appeared in front of him with a smile on his face, Zhuowen felt that something was amiss. Actually, I was specially sent by the city lord to receive you. I also know that you do not trust me, but the conflict between the two of us is only a small one. Later on, I was also taught a lesson by the city lord and my father. Therefore, in order to make up for my wrongdoings, the city lord sent me out to personally receive you today. Speaking of which, I am also trying to make up for my wrongdoings. This time, I am also trying to make up for my wrongdoings. Take this as an apology gift. Gushang had a smile on his face as he took out a brocade box and handed it to Zhuowen. A grade 4 elixir? Opening the brocade box slightly, Zhuowen immediately felt the rich medicinal power inside. This medicinal power was not inferior to the human-faced nascent ginseng. Looking deeply at Gushang, Zhuowen did not stand on ceremony and kept it into his Qianquan bag. He said with a smile, "Since young Master Gushang has already done so much, I will naturally not force you. Naturally, the matter between us will be written off. Brother Zhuowen is indeed a straightforward person. I like your character. Now let's enter the mansion first. Don't let the city lord wait for too long." Gushang heaved a sigh of relief. Soon after, he happily patted Zhuowen's shoulder and brought Zhuowen into the mansion. However, the moment Gushang turned around, a chilling light shot out from his eyes. The chilling light only lasted for a moment before a warm smile appeared on Gushang's face. Not long after the two of them entered the city lord's mansion, a delicate and beautiful figure appeared from within the mansion. The beautiful figure wore a light yellow dress, and her waterfall-like black hair was tied into a cloud bun behind her head. An elegant and graceful temperament was emitted from the woman's body, and the most praiseworthy feature was her pair of flawless, well-proportioned, and perfectly round legs. This woman was the daughter of the city lord, Gu Yu. Gu Yu stood at the entrance and looked around in confusion. The confusion on her face became even more pronounced. "Miss Gu Yu." The guards at the entrance respectfully bowed to Gu Yu. "Did you see a 15-year-old youth come to the city lord's mansion just now?" Gu Yu frowned and asked the guards at the entrance. She had clearly made an appointment with Zhuowen to come to the city lord's mansion today. Now that the time had passed, she didn't expect that Zhuowen still hadn't come. This made her a little unhappy. "Is the youth that Miss Gu Yu is looking for called Zhuowen?" one of the guards said with a fawning smile. "Yes, it's Zhuowen. Could it be that he came?" Gu Yu nodded and said expectantly. That Zhuowen did come, but he was taken away by young Master Gushang. It seems that he was brought to see the city lord. Before the guard could finish speaking, Gu Yu's expression changed greatly. Her figure flashed and flew into the mansion. "Father only appointed me to receive Zhuowen. He didn't mention Gushang at all. Gushang's guts are too big. If anything happens to Zhuowen, he can just wait for father's anger." If it was said that Gu Yu Tian only admired Zhuowen in the beginning, then after she told Gu Yu Tian that Zhuowen had the triple armor soul yesterday, Gu Yu Tian began to pay attention to Zhuowen. After all, Zhuowen had the triplet armor soul and an extremely strong mind power talent. Such a genius would definitely become a terrifying master when he grew up. Furthermore, Zhuowen belonged to Rattan Armor City. If they could build a good relationship with Zhuowen now, the city lord's residence would benefit greatly when the latter became a peerless master in the future. As she thought, Gu Yu's feet moved faster and faster. Very soon, she arrived in front of an ancient-looking pavilion. She pushed open the door, and a tranquil smell of incense slowly wafted out. There were two figures in the room. One of them was a purple-clothed man sitting in front of a sandalwood table. It was the city lord of Rattan Armor City, Gu Yu Tian. The other figure stood in front of Gu Yu Tian. It was actually Gu Shang's father, Gu Lai. The two of them seemed to be talking about something. Due to Gu Yu's violent opening of the door, the two of them simultaneously turned to look at the door and frowned slightly. When he discovered that the intruder was Gu Yu Tian's frown eased. A warm smile appeared on his face again as he said, Didn't you go to receive Zhuowen? Why have you returned so quickly? Where's Zhuowen now? Gu Yu's pretty face was a little gloomy. After coldly staring at the calm Gu Lai, she said in a deep voice, Father, Gu Shang falsely passed on your orders and took Zhuowen away. As for where he was taken, I don't know either. Gu Shang took Zhuowen away. The smile on Gu Yu Tian's face gradually disappeared, and a trace of cold light spread out from his eyes. He tilted his head and looked at the calm Gu Lai. He coldly said, Second brother, you were the one who leaked the news of Zhuowen's arrival to Gu Shang, right? Speak, where did you take Zhuowen? Gu Lai's expression was still calm. Although he was a little confused by Gu Yu Tian's questioning, in his opinion, Zhuowen was only a child of the small Zhuo family. There was no need to pay attention to him. Big brother, I know that you allowed Zhuowen to come today because you wanted to give him a spot to fight for the Yuan Qi Tower. However, he is not a member of the City Lord's mansion. Giving it to an outsider like this is not appropriate. Therefore, I acted on my own initiative and let Shang take Zhuowen to the Hall of Penal Law. That is where that bastard should go. Gu Lai's tone was very calm. Gu Lai, you have gone too far. The conflict between Zhuowen and Gu Shang is insignificant, but you want to kill him. Do you know that by doing this, you will bring unimaginable enemies to the City Lord's mansion in the future? Gu Yu finally couldn't help but shout. Her shoulders trembled in anger. Gu Lai was startled, and his face immediately became gloomy. As a junior, Gu Yu dared to question him like this. This made him lose face. He coldly snorted and said, What kind of threat can that bastard pose to the City Lord's mansion? Also, big brother, you should teach Gu Yu a lesson. Offending a superior like this is too impolite. You don't know Zhuowen at all. It was not by chance that he could win the resurrection battle and even kill a Yang Reality Realm warrior with the strength of the Yin Void Realm. If you insist on going against Zhuowen, you will really regret it. At this moment, anger had already filled Gu Yu's mind. She didn't know why she was so angry, but when she heard that Zhuowen had entered the Hall of Penal Law, her heart was filled with anger for no reason. The Hall of Penal Law was considered the most mysterious place in the City Lord's mansion. There were extremely vicious criminals locked inside. These criminals were simply ferocious beasts that killed without blinking an eye. Once someone entered the Hall of Penal Law, it was basically impossible for them to come out alive. This time, Zhuowen will definitely die in the Hall of Penal Law. A dead person will definitely not pose any threat to the City Lord's mansion. Now that what's done can't be undone, big brother, I think you should carefully consider the empty slot in the Vitality Tower. Gu Lai ignored Gu Yu and looked at Gu Yu Tian, who had been silent all this time. However, when Gu Lai saw the frighteningly calm expression on Gu Yu Tian's face, his heart suddenly thumped. He knew very well that once Gu Yu Tian showed such an expression, it meant that the usually gentle Gu Yu Tian was truly angry. Could it be that he is angry because of Zhuowen? That's not possible. Gu Lai couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Gu Lai, aren't you looking down on your big brother too much? Let me tell you clearly today that if anything happens to Zhuowen, your son Gu Shang won't be able to live either. A calm yet cold voice rang out from Gu Yu Tian's mouth, immediately causing Gu Lai's mind to go blank. He angrily said, Big brother, are you confused? Zhuowen is only an outsider. Gu Shang is my own son, your own nephew. Are you going to kill your own nephew for an outsider? Shut up. You don't understand Zhuowen's situation at all. Let me tell you right now, Zhuowen is a natural triple armor soul. His talent is even more outstanding than his father, Zhuowen. Do you still remember Zhuo Xiaotian from back then? He reached the ultimate king realm at the age of 25. Later on, Emperor Qing personally made him a marquis. If he hadn't disappeared right after becoming a marquis, our Rattan armor city would have the qualifications to become an intermediate city long ago, or even an advanced city. And now, a genius even more outstanding than Zhuo Xiaotian has appeared in our Rattan armor city. This is another chance for our Rattan armor city to improve, but you want to cut off this hope. The reason is actually just a small conflict. Gu Lai, oh Gu Lai, when did you become so muddle-headed? Gu Yu Tian's expression was still very calm, but the coldness in his words was even more pronounced. Triple armor soul? That bastard actually has a triple armor soul? But even if he has a triple armor soul, he might not be able to reach Zhuo Xiaotian's level. After all, success in the martial way doesn't just rely on armor souls. Gu Lai's voice trembled slightly. Looking at the coldness in Gu Yu Tian's eyes, he couldn't help but feel the hairs on his back stand on end. Even if his martial achievements can't reach Zhuo Xiaotian's level, do you know why Grandmaster Kuraki took him in as a disciple? Do you think his spiritual energy is only passable? You're wrong again. The result of his spiritual energy test is high grade. This is second only to exceptional talent. As for what high-grade spiritual energy means, I don't need to tell you. This kid's spiritual energy cultivation will at least reach the level of a grade 4 Arcana Master in the future. If he makes a small breakthrough, he might even reach grade 5. A grade 5 Arcana Master. That's an existence on par with the marquises of an empire. When the time comes, this kid only needs to casually give a suggestion, and our Rattan armor city will be able to expand our territory and increase our rank. Endless benefits will fall upon us. However, if this kid dies, our Rattan armor city will have no chance to increase its rank. Grandmaster Kuraki will even have to leave Rattan armor city. When that happens, the other cities that are eyeing us covetously will very likely attack us. Do you know how serious the consequences will be? When Gu Lai heard this, his face immediately became incomparably pale. He didn't think that Zhuowen's martial talent and spiritual energy talent would be so shocking. At this moment, regret gradually rose in his eyes. Humph. I'll go take a look at the Hall of Penal Law first. If Zhuowen really does unfortunately die, your son Gu Shang won't be able to live either. I'll do as I say. Chapter 96. Chapter 96 Hall of Criminal Law. Along the way, Gu Shang silently led the way in front, while Zhuowen followed behind as if nothing had happened. The two of them did not say a word, and the atmosphere was rather strange. Brat. This Gu Shang fellow is a little strange. Furthermore, he hides a knife behind his smile. Do you really believe his words? Xiao Hei's words rang out in Zhuowen's mind. Gu Shang is a narrow-minded person who will definitely seek revenge for the smallest grievance. I also know that this person will definitely not settle things peacefully. Moreover, his attitude just now was a little too enthusiastic. There must be something wrong. However, I'm not familiar with the city lord's mansion at all, so I can only let Gu Shang lead the way. And this time, I'm being received by the governor of the governor's manor, the governor of Vine Armor City, Gu Yu Tian. I don't think Gu Yu Tian will do anything out of line. Otherwise, Gu Yu Tian's anger won't be easy to bear. Zhuowen secretly communicated with Xiao Hei in his mind. However, his eyes were rather cautious as he stared at Gu Shang in front of him. Although he was confident that Gu Shang would not act recklessly in the city governor's mansion, it was still best to be careful. After bypassing a rockery, a black building suddenly appeared in front of him. The building was similar to a palace, but its appearance was not as grand and majestic as a palace. Instead, it was incomparably dark and looked quite strange. Moreover, the door in front of the building was actually made of black iron. The guards standing at the door were all wearing ghost masks and holding black halberds. They stood in front of the door meticulously. Zhuowen could feel that the aura of these two guards was even stronger than that of the guards in front of the gate of the Castellan mansion. They must be quite powerful in the Void realm. Brother Zhuowen, this is where the city lord usually meets people. Let's go in. Gu Shang tilted his head and said with a fawning smile. Thank you for leading the way, young Master Gu Shang. Zhuowen cupped his hands together indifferently. However, he frowned slightly. He could sense an unusual aura within this building. Just as Zhuowen was observing the building in front of him, a wave of desire was immediately transmitted from his sea of consciousness. Zhuowen frowned. He could sense that this wave was actually transmitted from within the Jade Cauldron. More accurately, it was a message transmitted from the Nirvana demon flame within the Jade Cauldron. Xiao He. Why has the Nirvana demon flame suddenly become agitated? Zhuowen immediately asked Xiao He in the sea with a little confusion. This long I can sense that this aura is a great temptation to the Nirvana demon flame. If the Nirvana demon flame is able to devour this evil aura, its recovery speed will definitely increase greatly. Its might even be stronger than before. But no matter how you look at it, this place looks like a prison. I'm afraid this Gu Shang doesn't have any good intentions and wants to harm you. If you still want to go in, why don't you just retreat? Xiao He's voice carried a little seriousness. It can greatly increase the strength of the Nirvana demon flame? A glint suddenly erupted from Zhuowen's eyes. The Nirvana demon flame was currently his greatest trump card. With the existence of the Nirvana demon flame, his strength was already invincible within the Void stage. He could even put up a fight against a corporeal Yang stage expert. Therefore, it was very difficult for him to reject the opportunity to quickly recover the Nirvana demon flame. From the looks of it, you should be planning to enter. You clearly know that there is a tiger in the mountain, yet you still insist on entering the mountain. I really don't know if you are brave or reckless. Xiao He's voice carried a little dissatisfaction. One naturally has to experience danger if one wishes to gain something. Although I have already confirmed that Gu Shang's intentions are not pure, it is likely that he will not dare to go overboard. Moreover, there is an aura inside that can increase the strength of the Nirvana demon flame. All the more reason for me to give it a try. Zhuowen parted his mouth and looked at the large door in front of him. His eyes revealed a trace of anticipation. Gu Shang conversed a little with the two black-armored guards in front of the door. The two black-armored guards glanced at Zhuowen's side and immediately nodded. After which, Gu Shang led Zhuowen and stepped into the large door. There was a deep tunnel behind the large door. The tunnel was around the height of a person and half a person wide. The two sides of the tunnel were made from black metal, causing it to appear sinister and dark. The two of them walked to the end after around 15 minutes. There was a metal door at the end. Gu Shang took out a key from his chest and swiftly opened the metal door. Clang! The metal door was opened and a spacious hall appeared in front of the two of them. The interior was very spacious. There was only a stone table and a stone bench placed in the middle. The entire hall appeared quite desolate. There were 3 similar metal doors on the other 3 sides of the hall. No one knew where these metal doors led to. Zhuowen was able to sense the fluctuation of the Nirvana demon flame in his sea of consciousness becoming increasingly intense after arriving in the hall. It was just like a hungry person who had smelled a fragrant dish and was ready to move. Clang! The metal door on the opposite side suddenly opened. A tall middle-aged man wearing black armor slowly walked out from the metal door. A group of fully armed black-armored soldiers followed behind the middle-aged man. Zhuowen was able to sense that the black-armored soldiers were all above the Void stage. The aura of the middle-aged man wearing black armor standing in front of the soldiers was the strongest. His body faintly revealed a trace of blazing aura. Clearly, this was the Yang Yuan Qi that was unique to corporeal Yang stage warriors. Moreover, the aura that the middle-aged man revealed was not much different from Wang Shuo, who had fought with Zhuowen the other day. Clearly, he was also a warrior who had just stepped into the corporeal yang stage. How dare you trespass into the hall of penal law? Take these two people down and detain them first. The middle-aged man stared coldly at Gu Shang and Zhuowen in the hall. His cold voice was as cold as the winter snow. Big Brother Yen, do you still remember me? I am Gu Shang. Gu Shang's expression changed drastically when he saw the middle-aged man attack. As soon as he said so, he hurriedly shouted, Gu Shang? Gu Shang, the son of Lord Gu Lai? The middle-aged man was startled. He immediately waved his right hand and stopped the soldiers who were about to arrest the two. Yes, that's me. So Big Brother Yen still remembers me. Gu Shang's face revealed a relaxed smile as he gently came to the middle-aged man's side and laughed. It's been many years since we last met. I didn't expect you to have grown so much. Ever since I entered the Hall of Penal Law 10 years ago, I have almost never stepped outside. I think things have changed by now. However, the Hall of Penal Law is a forbidden area in the mansion. How did you enter it? It won't be a good thing if the city lord finds out. The middle-aged man's cold face revealed a rare smile. Soon after, he became serious again and warned. It's fine. When I was young, Big Brother Yen loved me the most. Now that we haven't met for more than 10 years, I miss you. So I came to see you. Gu Shang said with a smile. You are so considerate. Your big brother's heart is warmed by your words. Just because of your words, you should accompany me for a few drinks before you leave. And who is this brother? Could he be your friend? The cold expression on the middle-aged man's face had already disappeared. His face was full of smiles as he stared at the silent Zhuowen. I'm sorry, Big Brother Yen. This person is not my friend. I don't even know him. The corners of Gu Shang's mouth curled into a complacent arc. His eyes stared mockingly at the silent Zhuowen who was not far away. Oh? Isn't this person your friend? The smile on the middle-aged man's face slowly disappeared. Traces of cruel and cold light were slowly released from his eyes. Since he's not your friend, trespassing into the Hall of Penal Law is a serious crime. Men, take him down. Yes. A group of black armored soldiers behind the middle-aged man responded respectfully. Soon after, they surrounded Zhuowen. Gu Shang, you really do not have good intentions. Don't you know that I am someone personally invited by the city governor? Now you have brought me to such a place. If the city governor were to know about this, aren't you afraid that the city governor would blame you? Zhuowen's eyes hardened. There was a trace of killing intent surfacing in his eyes as he looked at Gu Shang. Although he had already guessed in his heart that Gu Shang's intentions were impure, Zhuowen had voluntarily entered this so-called Hall of Penal Law due to his relationship with the Nirvana demon flame. However, this little action of Gu Shang caused Zhuowen to be extremely displeased. Originally, he thought that there was only a small conflict between him and Gu Shang. However, Gu Shang's actions of targeting him had caused Zhuowen's tolerance to slowly decrease. Gu Shang also sensed the dense chilliness within Zhuowen's eyes. His heart involuntarily shivered. He immediately mocked. Do you know how many experts are hidden within the Hall of Penal Law? There are 5 young corporeal stage experts within. Moreover, the chief of the Hall of Penal Law is a half-step to the Zhao King stage expert. Don't tell me that you dare to mess around in this place. He. The one who brought me into the Hall of Penal Law is you, Gu Shang. If we are to talk about responsibility, it is also your responsibility. Moreover, the city governor has already left a spot for me in the Yuan Energy Tower. Can't you see how much the city governor values me? If I die, all of you will have to suffer the fury of the city governor. Zhuowen retorted. The middle-aged man's expression immediately became ugly when he heard this. His gaze turned towards Gu Shang and his face revealed an inquiring expression. If what Zhuowen said was true, it would really be difficult for them to act against Zhuowen. Big Brother Yen, you can be rest assured. Currently, my father is one of the only 2 Zhao King stage experts in the city governor's mansion. His authority is only below the city governor's. As long as we kill this brat now, the city governor will not rashly touch us given my father's strength and authority. After all, no one will risk their life for a dead person. As long as you can get rid of this person, I will have my father transfer you out of the hall of beheadings and executions and give you a higher position and greater authority. As long as you kill this person, your life and future will be greatly improved. Gu Shang also noticed the hesitation on the middle-aged man's face and hurriedly promised. Good. If Brother Gu Shang is really confident, then I will take a gamble today. As he spoke, the middle-aged man coldly looked at the youth in front of him. He waved his hand and said, "Capture this person and execute him on the spot." Once the 10 black-armored soldiers received the order, they immediately raised their black halberds and fiercely stabbed at the youth in the middle. It was obvious that they did not want to leave him alive. With a cold snort, Zhuowen lightly tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and dodged the incoming black halberd. He coldly stared at the middle-aged man not far away and said, "I really hope you won't regret it in the end. If you kill me, you will be used as a scapegoat by Gu Shang. Could it be that you still don't understand the situation?" Chapter 97. Shifting the blame. Big Brother Yen, do not be fooled by this person. I definitely do not have such thoughts. Moreover, even if you release this person now, it is already too late. After all, allowing someone to barge into the interior of the Hall of Penal Law is a serious crime. The both of us are actually grasshoppers on the same rope. Gu Shang involuntarily cried out in a somewhat anxious manner when he saw the hesitation on the face of the man surnamed Yen. The man surnamed Yen was startled. He immediately looked deeply at Gu Shang before waving his hand and crying out, "Kill this person on the spot. Do not let this person escape from this place." Once they finished speaking, the 10 black-armored soldiers released the Yuan power within their bodies without any hesitation. In an instant, the entire hall was covered under the fluctuation of Yuan power. Zhuowen's footsteps continued to move as he dodged the attacks of the 10 black-armored soldiers. His eyes had also become much gloomier. "You are the one who forced me to do this." Zhuowen violently threw down these words. His right hand pressed on his brow and immediately summoned the jade cauldron. His right hand gently patted the bottom of the jade cauldron, and a black flame the size of a human face slowly appeared. The temperature of the hall immediately rose sharply when the black flame appeared. The originally dark and cold hall was actually incomparably hot like a furnace at this moment. Threads of hot air were continuously being emitted from the ground. This is the Nirvana demon flame? Oh my God, this fellow actually has such an evil thing. Moreover, it looks like he can control it? The eyes of the man surnamed Yen protruded. Threads of disbelief rose within his eyes. His mouth involuntarily widened as he cried out in shock. The corner of Zhuowen's mouth immediately revealed a dark and vicious smile when the words of the man surnamed Yen sounded. The mental energy of his Naiwan palace was released and the black flame slowly spread over the surface of both of Zhuowen's fists. It was as though his fists were wearing a pair of gloves. However, this pair of gloves was purely formed from the strange black flame. The 10 black-armored soldiers also sensed the powerful aura of the strange black flame in the hands of the young man in front of them. Although their faces revealed a strange expression, they did not stop their charging bodies. Clang! A cold glint flashed and a black halberd suddenly pierced toward the spot between Zhuowen's brows. Raising his hand slightly, Zhuowen did not dodge. Instead, his right hand suddenly extended out like a snake and actually grabbed the black halberd with his bare hand. The smile on the face of the soldier holding the halberd immediately stiffened. This was because he saw that the black halberd had actually turned into nothingness in the hands of the young man. More accurately, it was completely swallowed by the black flame. How is this possible? The soldier felt a chill in his heart. Soon after, he saw the palm wrapped in black flames coming towards him. A trace of cold sweat slowly flowed down from the soldier's forehead. He suddenly unleashed the yuan power in his body. Cold air immediately covered his entire body, turning into a cold and dense void armor. His palm also landed on the former's chest the moment the void armor formed. A scene that stunned everyone appeared. The void armor, which was unique to warriors in the void realm, was shattered like paper under the strange black hand. The blazing black flame penetrated the void armor and fell on the soldier's body. Whoosh! With a scream, the soldier with the cultivation of the void realm was instantly enveloped by the black flame. The scream stopped abruptly, and the soldier disappeared without a trace, leaving only a pile of ashes. The entire place immediately fell silent, as if time had stopped. The remaining 9 soldiers, the man surnamed Yen, and Gu Shang all stared blankly at the pile of ashes on the ground. The place had become terrifyingly quiet. No one had expected that an expert in the void realm would be killed by a young man who was only about 15 years old in one move. Moreover, he died without a complete corpse. Gazing at the young man who was not far away, everyone present felt a chill in their hearts. You killed Achio. I'll make you pay with your life for Achio's. The eyes of the remaining 9 soldiers in black armor suddenly became extremely red. The 10 of them had worked together for more than 10 years, and their relationship was almost like that of brothers. Now that one of them had died, the other 9 soldiers in black armor were filled with grief and indignation. Their gazes towards Zhuowen became filled with resentment and hatred. Whoosh! Whoosh! Powerful origin energy abruptly erupted from the bodies of the 9 black armors. After that, the 9 of them waved their black halberds with great tacit understanding and abruptly flashed straight towards Zhuowen with surging killing intent and an indomitable will. Zhuowen stood in the same place, straightening his back. There was no fear on his face. His muscles tightened and countless blood lines crisscrossed on the surface of his body. Howl! Endless blood light burst out from his body, and a huge illusory ape slowly condensed behind him. Immediately, the ape clenched its right fist and made a crackling sound. Then, it suddenly punched out. Boom! The powerful yuan power violently swept through the entire hall, and the remaining stone tables and benches in the hall turned into powder under the aftermath of this power. Under this punch, the 9 people who were besieging him immediately spat out blood. However, the 9 of them were unyielding. They forcefully endured the injuries on their bodies and desperately urged the yuan power in their bodies. A huge black halberd shadow condensed in front of them. Armor-breaking halberd! The 9 people shouted in unison. The huge black halberd pierced through the void and turned into a fierce black light, rushing towards Zhuowen. Boom! The black halberd actually pierced through the illusory ape in an instant. Soon after, under the surprised gazes of the 9 people, it rushed towards Zhuowen's forehead. Its powerful speed seemed to have torn the space apart, and it let out an ear-piercing rumbling sound. Under the black halberd, the youth gently raised his head. His hair fluttered in the wind, and a trace of an arc bloomed at the corner of his mouth. The youth's hands moved continuously, and the fist that was covered in black flames fiercely swung upwards. The powerful yuan power and the black flames continuously intertwined, and for a moment, it actually became dazzling and colorful. Under everyone's incredulous gazes, the youth's fist fiercely swung out. At the instant when it came into contact with the huge black halberd, there was no earth-shattering explosion of energy, nor was there any earth-shattering sound. There was only the faint crackling sound of the strange black flames burning faintly. The object of the burning was the huge black halberd. Under the burning of the black flames, the majestic black halberd slowly melted like ice in June, and finally turned into nothingness. The smiles on the faces of the 9 black-armored soldiers gradually froze, and a trace of horror slowly spread across their faces. The armor-breaking halberd was their combined armor technique, and also their strongest move. It was difficult for even a warrior in the 9th level of the Void realm to resist this move. But now, it had been easily blocked by a youth who had just entered the Void realm. This huge contrast made the 9 black-armored soldiers, who had experienced hundreds of battles, feel somewhat incredulous. "Have you had a good fight?" "Since you've had a good fight, it's my turn now." The light voice slowly sounded in the hall. Immediately, the youth standing not far away suddenly turned into an indiscernible illusory shadow in front of everyone. Lowering his waist, Zhuowen came in front of the nearest soldier like a vigorous cheetah. His right hand, which was covered with black flames, gently stretched out and penetrated the soldier's heart. After his right hand was pulled out, another pile of ashes was left on the ground. At this moment, Zhuowen seemed to have transformed into a death god who had stepped out of an endless hell. Every time he took a step, a fresh life would disappear. The blazing temperature of the Nirvana demon flame restrained the void armor of a warrior in the Void realm. Although the Nirvana demon flame in Zhuowen's hand was not as powerful as before, it was more than enough to deal with a warrior in the Void realm. Therefore, Zhuowen, who was also a warrior in the Void realm, was able to instantly kill the 9 black-armored soldiers whose realms were higher than his. Ah! When the last scream sounded, the 9 black-armored soldiers in the field all turned into a pile of ashes. Only the pale-faced Gu Shang and the man with the surname of Yen were left in the field. Gulp! Gu Shang's throat moved with difficulty. Looking at the piles of ashes in the field, his face became even paler. During the battle of the marketplace, he stood on the platform and looked down. He didn't feel much when Zhuowen killed Wang Shuo. Now, seeing the 10 powerful black-armored soldiers turn into a pile of ashes at such a close distance, it was absolutely like a nightmare for Gu Shang, who had never experienced a bloody scene. "Zhuowen, you're finished. You dared to kill the black-armored soldiers of the Hall of Penal Law without permission. You have violated the bottom line of the governor's mansion. You will become a sinner of the governor's mansion." Gu Shang's voice was trembling, but he was still full of energy. After all, this was the Hall of Penal Law, where there were countless experts. He was afraid that the movement here had already attracted the attention of other experts hidden in the hall. Once these experts took action, no matter how unfathomable Zhuowen was, he would definitely die. Once Zhuowen died, his goal would be achieved. "You forced me to do this. Even if I die today, I'll drag you down with me. Gu Shang, you can die now." Zhuowen's eyes were scarlet red as he coldly stared at Gu Shang. Soon after, his legs shot out, and his entire body shot towards Gu Shang like a cannonball. The black flames in his hands burned even more fiercely. Gu Shang's face turned even paler as he stared at the approaching figure. Rolling like a wild donkey, he miserably hid behind the man with the surname Yen. The man with the surname Yen solemnly stared at the approaching Zhuowen. He suddenly took a step forward, and a powerful aura surged out from his body as he threw out a punch. "Zhuowen, even if you weren't in the wrong earlier, you've killed 10 black-armored soldiers. Therefore, you won't be able to escape the pursuit of our Hall of Penal Law. The dignity of our Hall of Penal Law cannot be violated. You'd better be captured now, or you're dead meat." Zhuowen coldly smiled, ignoring the man with the surname Yan's words. He suddenly threw out both his fists, and the black flames on the surface of his fists immediately surged out, becoming even more intense. Bang! The fists of the two suddenly collided. Immediately, a strong wind blew between the two of them, and the surging energy enveloped the entire hall. With a cracking sound, the floor of the hall began to crack, as if it couldn't withstand the energy of the two of them. Finally, it abruptly collapsed, and the hall began to shake under the impact of the two of them. Dang dang dang! The eyes of the man with the surname Yen shrunk. Under the powerful burning force of the black flames, he let out a muffled groan and took 3 steps back. His gaze was somewhat surprised as he stared at the young man, who also took a few steps back. The young man in front of him was only 15 years old. On the surface, his cultivation was clearly at the unveiled realm. However, the young man's strength was actually not weaker than his. Although he knew that the young man's strength relied on the strange Nirvana demon flame, being able to control the Nirvana demon flame was already a part of his strength. He finally knew why the city governor had given the quota of the Yuan Chi Tower to the young man in front of him. It was because this young man was too monstrous. Even the city governor had attached great importance to him. The man with the surname Yen glanced at Gu Shang, who was trembling behind him, and shook his head slightly. A trace of regret rose in his eyes. Offending a young man with abnormal talent and strength for an incompetent hedonistic Gu Shang was really not worth the loss. Zhuowen, who had taken a few steps back, shook his head helplessly. The strength of the man with the surname Yen was similar to Wang Shua back then. Currently, the Nirvana demon flame in Zhuowen's body had not recovered. It was really difficult for him to deal with the man with the surname Yen. Chapter 98. Sudden changes. Clang. The heavy metal doors on both sides were suddenly opened. The sound of heavy metal stepping on the ground also clearly sounded in the hall. Two middle-aged men wearing similar black armor each led a group of black-armored soldiers and barged in. Their eyes were focused on the remaining 3 people in the hall. One of the white-haired men glanced at the man surnamed Yen and said with some displeasure, "Yen Jie, what are you doing? Why did you create such a big commotion? Also, who are these 2 fellows? Why did they barge into the Hall of Law and Punishment?" When the man surnamed Yen saw that 2 more groups of black-armored soldiers had arrived, his solemn face immediately revealed a wild joy. He raised his right hand and pointed at Zhuowen and said, "Lin Yao, you have come at the right time. Quickly capture this brat. The 10 black-armored soldiers under my command have been killed by this brat. Such an unscrupulous action is enough to tear him into pieces." The white-haired man called Lin Yao looked at Zhuowen with a surprised expression. He said with some surprise, "This brat stinking of milk is able to kill the black-armored soldiers. Yen Jie, have you become muddle-headed? The black-armored soldiers are all elite Void stage warriors. This brat's aura is only at the initial Void stage. How could he kill 10 black-armored soldiers? You should believe it. This brat is very strange. He actually has the Nirvana demon flame in his body. The ashes on the ground are the corpses of my subordinate. We must join forces to capture this brat." The man surnamed Yen pointed at the ashes in the corner and spoke with some urgency. Lin Yao's eyes widened. He also saw the ashes in the corner. With his observation ability, he could naturally feel that these ashes did indeed have the unique aura of the black-armored soldiers. In other words, what Yen Jie said was very likely true. Damn it! What is the background of this brat? He actually has the Nirvana demon flame in his body. Moreover, he is not affected in the slightest. However, the dignity of our Hall of Law and Punishment cannot be violated. Since he has killed people, this brat can forget about coming out alive. Lin Ku, let's attack together and capture this brat first. A trace of anger appeared in Lin Yao's eyes. It was obvious that he had a bad temper. The elemental energy in his body suddenly surged, and a powerful astral wind revolved around his body. With a spring of his legs, he took the lead and rushed towards Zhuowen. Behind Lin Yao, the man named Lin Ku, who had been silent all this while, also secretly circulated his elemental energy. He followed behind Lin Yao, intending to attack Zhuowen together. Seeing the 2 attack at the same time, Yen Jie's eyes flashed with viciousness. He also launched a powerful attack towards Zhuowen. The 3 powerful corporeal yang experts working together caused the hall to shine like the sun. Zhuowen! 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 Brat! Do not meet force with these 3 fellows. Even if you have the Nirvana demon flame in your hands now, it is still very difficult for you to be a match for these 3 fellows. I can sense a dark and cold evil aura deep within the door behind you. This evil aura is coincidentally a great supplement for the Nirvana demon flame. Endure this attack and directly enter the metal door behind you. Find an opportunity to let the Nirvana demon flame recover. Once the Nirvana demon flame recovers, it may not be able to defeat the combined forces of the 3 corporeal Yang realm warriors. However, it is still possible for you to easily leave this place. Xiao Hei's solemn voice also sounded in Zhuowen's mind. It was also aware that Zhuowen's current situation was extremely bad. Lin Yao glanced behind him. Sure enough, he discovered that a metal door was wide open. His original aim of entering this place was to search for the aura that caused the Nirvana demon flame to become agitated. Once he found it, his aim would naturally be achieved. Rumble. 3 wind sounds cut through the air. They were just like 3 rays of light that suddenly shot in all directions around Zhuowen's body, sealing off all of his escape routes. Zhuowen inhaled a deep breath of air. He knew that he must block this attack if he wanted to enter the metal door behind him. Zhuowen's eyes hardened. He threw a punch forward without any fear. Countless number of dragon roars whistled out from within his body. His powerful aura also caused the muscles all over his body to emit a cracking sound. Chaotic Dragon Roar Fist. 9 Dragon Roar. 9 dazzling 5-clawed golden dragons suddenly leaped out. Their enormous dragon claws unceremoniously tore at Yan Jie's group. Brat who overestimates himself. Lin Yao took the lead to take a step forward. His fist carried a rich yuan power as it smashed onto the 9 golden dragons. A violent strength also instantly erupted. The 9 golden dragons immediately broke apart an inch at a time under this punch of Lin Yao's. Yan Jie and Xiao Hei behind him took the lead and leaped forward. Their powerful fist strength suddenly smashed toward Zhuowen's chest. Zhuowen let out a cold snort. His toes suddenly stomped on the ground. His entire body appeared to be floating as he suddenly pulled back. The fists of the 3 of them chased closely after him. The powerful energy ripples caused Zhuowen's chest to feel a little stuffy. Zhuowen's right leg pushed back and his body immediately came to a stop. Both of his fists were pushed forward. The black flame on his fist immediately surged out. In an instant, both of Zhuowen's arms were also covered by the black flame. Bang! The hot black flame suddenly collided with the 3 powerful attacks. Immediately, the large hall once again shook intensely. Countless number of rock fragments fell from the top of the large hall. It was as though the large hall was about to collapse at this moment. Puff! Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood. With a muffled groan, Zhuowen continuously retreated until his entire body hit the wall. At this time, Zhuowen also became quite embarrassed. Both of his sleeves had already been torn to shreds under the powerful force. Under Zhuowen's desperate attack, the encirclement of the 3 of them was instantly broken. Yan Jie and the other 2 leaned their bodies slightly, revealing a large gap. A bright light flashed in Zhuowen's eyes as he forcefully endured the injuries in his body. He stomped on the ground with the tip of his foot. The moment the gap appeared, his entire body flew out like a nimble bird. With a few flashes, he entered the iron door closest to him. The scene instantly became incomparably silent. Whether it was the retreating Yan Jie and the other 2, the black-armored soldiers they brought, or Gu Shang who was squatting in the corner, all of them fell into a strange silence. This was because they saw with their own eyes that a young man who had just entered the Yin Void Realm actually broke through the encirclement of 3 Yang Void Realm warriors. Motherf ****. Who the hell is this young man? How can he be so abnormal? Even if the city governor's son, Gu Xin, had just entered the Yin Void Realm, it would be impossible for him to break through under the encirclement of the 3 of us. Lin Yao was the first to recover from the shock and said angrily. On the other hand, Link and Yan Jie fell into silence. Yan Jie was the most astonished of them all. As he stared at the disappearing figure, he faintly felt that helping Gu Shang deal with Zhuowen was the stupidest thing he had ever done in his life. We have to go in and catch that young man. Moreover, the iron door he just went through is the entire Hall of Penal Law's heavy punishment area. It has imprisoned many vicious warriors for many years. If this young man makes a little trouble and releases these felons, the Hall of Penal Law will definitely be in chaos, Yen Jie said with a gloomy expression. He already felt that things were getting more and more serious. If things were going to turn out like this, he should not have agreed to Gu Shang's request. Damn it! Who the hell brought this young man in? If the Hall of Penal Law is really in chaos this time, that young man will have to take all the blame. Lin Yao's eyes were red as he quickly fixed his gaze on Gu Shang, who was trembling in the corner. It's you, right? You'd better give us an explanation. Otherwise, we'll take you to see the hall master immediately. Lin Yao suddenly stepped in front of Gu Shang and grabbed his collar with one hand. His eyes were cold as he spoke. No, I'm Gu Lai's son. You can't convict me. My father has a lot of power in the city governor's mansion. Gu Shang also faintly felt that this matter was getting out of hand. At this moment, his mind was like a bucket of paste and he had no idea what to do. However, he still remembered that his father was Gu Lai. He knew how powerful his father was in the city governor's mansion. He believed that as long as he mentioned his father's name, these people would definitely not dare to touch him. Gu Lai's son? I didn't expect a coward like you to be Gu Lai's son. However, do you think that by mentioning Lord Gu Lai, you can escape all responsibility? Let me tell you, the Hall of Penal Law was built by the city governor with his blood, sweat, and tears. It's the place that he values the most. This matter involves the city governor. Even Lord Gu Lai won't be able to stand up for you. Humph, other than causing trouble for your father, what else can a piece of trash like you do? Even that brat who caused trouble just now is 1,000,000 times better than you. Men, detain him first. We'll wait for the hall master to arrive before making a decision. Lin Yao didn't care about Gu Shang at all. With a casual flick of his hand, he threw Gu Shang to the black armored soldiers behind him. The black armored soldiers were also very nimble. They caught Gu Shang and used chains to lock him up. How dare you treat me like this? I'm Gu Lai's son. If my father finds out, all of you will die. Gu Shang was somewhat unwilling. Although he was terrified, he still had some confidence. Slap. A crisp sound rang out. Lin Yao gave Gu Shang a fierce slap and said coldly, "If you make a ruckus again, I'll kill you immediately. Let me tell you, the Hall of Penal Law only listens to the city governor. Even Lord Gu Lai doesn't have the right to capture us. In other words, even if we kill you, as long as the city governor doesn't give the order, Gu Lai can't do anything to us." The burning pain on his face immediately woke Gu Shang up. Looking at the cold killing intent on Lin Yao's face, he knew that this person would definitely do as he said. He immediately lowered his head and didn't dare to say anything. Chapter 99. Evil Fiend Demon Bead. The dark corridor was filled with a damp and moldy stench. A dense and cold aura spread throughout the entire corridor. Xiao He. I can sense the fluctuation of the Nirvana demon flame in my sea of consciousness. This fellow seems to be extremely thirsty. Where is the evil aura that you speak of? Zhuowen silently ran through the dark and cold corridor. At the same time, he communicated with Xiao He in his sea of consciousness. We're almost there. It should be around 100 meters ahead. Xiao He's voice was transmitted into Zhuowen's ears in a timely manner. After receiving confirmation, Zhuowen did not say anything else. He merely focused on running through the corridor. At the same time, he cautiously observed his surroundings. He knew that there seemed to be quite a number of young corporeal stage practitioners in this hall of punishment. Currently, even if 3 young corporeal stage practitioners joined forces, he would not be able to handle them. If a few more came, he would definitely die. Currently, his only chance was to increase the strength of the Nirvana demon flame. Only in this way would he be able to walk out of the hall of punishment alive. Thud, thud, thud. After making another turn, Zhuowen quickly saw a metal door appear in front of him. There were 2 black-armored soldiers guarding the metal door. Who is it? How dare you trespass into the area of serious criminals? You are seeking death. The 2 black-armored soldiers also discovered the sudden appearance of Zhuowen. Without saying anything, they held their black halberds and stabbed at Zhuowen's vital points. Clearly, they wanted to kill Zhuowen on the spot. With a cold snort, Zhuowen gently stepped on the ground. His entire body was like an elegant cheetah as he dodged the attacks of the 2 black-armored soldiers. Immediately, both of his hands gently patted the chest of the 2 soldiers. Blazing black flames immediately spread from his palms to their bodies. Before the 2 black-armored soldiers could even react, they were burned into ashes by the black flames. After killing the 2 black-armored soldiers, Zhuowen took a big stride forward and arrived at the metal door. Black flames suddenly emerged from his right hand and instantly melted the chains at the side of the metal door. Clang! The door opened with an ear-piercing sound. After opening the iron door, Zhuowen disappeared through the door in a flash. The stench and chilling aura behind the metal door became even thicker. Even Zhuowen could not help but frown slightly. He roughly scanned the surroundings and locked his gaze on the ceiling. The room was very spacious, and the walls were all made of black iron. The whole room seemed very gloomy. 10 meters above the ceiling of the room, there was a huge iron chain that was as thick as 2 people hugging it. At the bottom of the iron chain was a hook that was bent 180 degrees, and hanging on the hook was a huge iron cage. The size of the iron cage was comparable to a large hall. It was rather strange to see it hanging in the room. What surprised Zhuowen even more was that there were many figures sitting cross-legged in the cages. They seemed to be cultivating. There were dozens of such figures in the cages. Zhuowen knew that these figures in the cages should be the felons locked up here. It was said that these felons were extremely vicious villains before they were caught. Every one of them had a blood debt in their hand. After a rough scan of the cages, he found that the cultivation of these figures was basically at the peak of the soul transformation realm. Only a few of them were above the nirvana realm. The aura of the figure in a black cloak sitting cross-legged in the middle of the cages was far above the others. He had actually reached the void realm. Didn't you just deliver food? Why are you here again? Zhuowen's intrusion attracted the attention of these figures sitting cross-legged. Some of them even complained from time to time. However, when these people saw that it was a teenager with blood-stained clothes who came in, they were all stunned. Where did this little guy come from? He actually entered the felon area? It seems that he is a newcomer. Look at this kid's white and tender skin. TSK, he can be used as a woman. Everyone hasn't touched a woman for many years. When this kid comes in, everyone will have a share. Almost everyone in the cages focused their gaze on Zhuowen. Among them, there were a few gazes that contained a trace of malice. They stared at the teenager outside the cages with ridicule. You are courting death. Coldly staring in the direction of the cages, Zhuowen revealed a trace of a cruel smile. His figure flashed and his entire body turned into an afterimage that was difficult to be caught by the naked eye. Everyone in the cages only felt their vision blur. Soon after, they were shocked to find that the 2 most arrogant men had their necks grabbed by the hands of the teenager from outside the cages. You haven't played with women for a long time, right? Then you can go to hell together and play slowly. An indifferent voice slowly sounded in the cages. The 2 men who were grabbed by the neck rolled their eyes wildly. Their eyes were filled with horror as they stared at the indifferent teenager outside the cages. With a gentle squeeze of both hands, the 2 men's eyes widened and their necks were broken. They died. Bang! With a casual toss of both hands, the 2 dead bodies fell heavily to the ground. Gulp! The scene suddenly fell into silence. The other people in the cages couldn't help but gulp a few times. The swallowing sound was quite loud in this empty space. Warrior of the Void Realm? Someone shouted. The ridicule on the faces of the other people in the cages suddenly disappeared. They all quietly stepped back a few steps and looked at the indifferent teenager outside the cages with trepidation. It should be known that the two martial artists killed by the young man earlier were genuine Nirvana Realm martial artists. They relied on their formidable martial strength and were used to being arrogant in the iron cage. However, they did not expect that they would kick an iron plate and pay with their lives. Ignoring the reactions of the other people in the cages, Zhuowen's clear eyes stared straight at the black-cloaked figure sitting in the center of the cages. Just now, Xiao He had clearly sensed that the aura was emitted from this person. Although Zhuowen could sense that this person's aura was only around the Void Realm, he could acutely sense that this person was not simple. Moreover, Zhuowen could sense that the fluctuation of the Nirvana demon flame in his body had already reached its peak. He knew that the thing that the Nirvana demon flame desired the most was definitely in the hands of the black-clothed man. Hand over that thing or die. Zhuowen stared coldly at the black-clothed man in the middle of the cages. He spread out his right hand and spoke faintly. Zhuowen's question seemed to have attracted the attention of the black-clothed man. He raised his head slightly. His face, which was covered by the cloak, emitted two sharp green lights. He gently raised his right hand and revealed a withered branch-like arm. An old and hoarse voice slowly spread throughout the entire space. "Is this the thing that you are talking about?" With a glance from the corner of his eyes, Zhuowen immediately saw an ink-black bead quietly lying in the palm of the black-clothed man. The moment the black bead appeared in his line of sight, the Nirvana demon flame in Zhuowen's body suddenly became crazy. He knew that the Nirvana demon flame needed this black bead. Forcefully suppressing the commotion of the Nirvana demon flame, Zhuowen said in a low voice, "This is it. Give it to me. If I have guessed correctly, you have barged into the area of heavy criminals by yourself. Although I don't know how you, a mere Void Realm warrior, managed to break into this place, I can sense an inexplicably powerful aura from your body. You must have relied on that aura to barge in." As soon as the black-clothed man finished speaking, the other people in the iron cage looked at Zhuowen in disbelief. They knew that there were 10 young Void Realm warriors in the Hall of Penal Law. Among them, the Hall Master of the Hall of Penal Law was at the peak of the young Void Realm. It could be said that the entire Hall of Penal Law was impregnable. A Void Realm warrior was actually able to barge in. At this moment, the other people in the iron cage looked at Zhuowen with reverence instead of fear. They did not expect that a 15-year-old youth in front of them would be able to barge into the Hall of Penal Law alone. In the end, he even managed to barge into the area of heavy criminals. "Actually, it is not impossible to give it to you. However, you have to open the cage first and let me out. Then, I will give this evil demonic bead to you." The black-clothed man waved his right hand and put the black bead into his sleeve. A pair of green eyes stared straight at Zhuowen. "You probably don't know how to open the cage. Actually..." Before the black-clothed man could finish his words, he suddenly stared at the youth, who suddenly appeared in front of him. He was so stunned that he could not choke out the rest of his words. He quietly glanced forward and immediately noticed that there was a large hole that was about the height of a person in the iron cage. A trace of cold sweat suddenly appeared on the black-clothed man's back. The material used to make the iron cage was not ordinary iron. It was meteorite mysterious iron that was taken from a meteorite and forged thousands of times. Its hardness was so high that even a warrior at the peak of the Void Realm would not be able to break it. However, the youth in front of him had casually broken the iron cage. This made the black-clothed man feel a chill in his heart. Although the iron cage was made of extraordinary material, Zhuowen's body had a strange flame like the Nirvana demon flame. Even the so-called meteorite mysterious iron could not escape from the Nirvana demon flame. Originally, the black-clothed man wanted to borrow Zhuowen's hand to release him. At that time, he would personally kill the youth in front of him. Although he was surprised that the youth in front of him could barge into the area of heavy criminals, he thought that the youth in front of him was too young and his strength was definitely not high. Therefore, he felt that he could easily deal with him. However, sometimes reality was cruel. The black-clothed man once again glanced at the hole in the iron cage. His throat involuntarily moved. The iron cage was something that even he could not break open. However, the youth had actually broken it open. There was only one explanation. The youth's strength was definitely stronger than his. The black-clothed man's throat once again moved when this thought surfaced in his mind. His heart was filled with shock. The iron cage has been opened. Give me the black bead. Zhuowen's expression remained calm from the beginning until the end. He spread his hands and stared at the black-clothed man. Deng deng deng. Hurried footsteps immediately sounded outside the room. Zhuowen's expression changed immediately. He knew that the rescue from the Hall of Punishment was about to arrive. Quickly hand it over to me. Otherwise, die. Zhuowen did not have the time to waste with the black-clothed man. He flipped his right hand and a blazing black flame immediately covered his hand. He stared coldly at the black-clothed man. Oh my God! Nirvana demon flame. Sir, I will hand it over now. Please don't act recklessly. The black-clothed man's expression finally changed drastically when he saw the black flame in Zhuowen's hand. He hurriedly took out the black bead and handed it to Zhuowen. Zhuowen immediately sensed the Nirvana demon flame within his body emitting a joyous hissing sound after receiving the black bead. His expression changed. Zhuowen swiftly took out the Jade Cauldron's soul armor from between his brows. The Nirvana demon flame's actual body erupted from the bottom of the Jade Cauldron and instantly wrapped around the black bead. At the same time, it occasionally emitted a joyous hissing sound as though it was enjoying itself. The black-clothed man's pale face instantly became even paler after seeing the actual body of the Nirvana demon flame. The lofty mysterious feeling that was originally created on his body immediately collapsed. He sat on the ground and trembled as he said, "Sir, can I leave now?" "Get lost." "All right, I will get lost now." The black-clothed man hurriedly rolled and crawled out of the iron cage as though he had been relieved of a heavy burden. The other prisoners in the cage also followed and ran out one after another when the black-clothed man fled. Bang! When the black-clothed man ran to the iron door with great difficulty, a powerful force immediately sent the iron door in front of him flying. The black-clothed man was unluckily struck by the iron door. Zhuowen, you will not be able to escape. Chapter 100. 1 against 3 Sizzle. The black flame was just like a candle flame that was greedy for whack. It wildly absorbed the evil aura within the black bead. Under this absorption, the size of the black flame grew uncontrollably. The black flame, which was originally the size of a human face, had actually surpassed Zhuowen at this moment. An unprecedentedly strong aura was also being emitted from within the black flame. What is this evil fiend demon bead? In just an instant, the Nirvana demon flame has already swelled by so much. Although there is still some distance before it completely recovers, its aura is much stronger than before. Zhuowen's eyes carried joy as he stared at the black flame in front of him that was continuously swelling. His voice carried a trace of joy. There is quite a large amount of resentment gathered within the evil fiend demon bead. These resentment are actually a great tonic to the Nirvana demon flame. However, the refining process of this kind of bead is against the laws of nature. Other than an extremely evil person who would refine such a sinister soul treasure, an ordinary person would not do so. Xiao Hei's voice was transmitted into Zhuowen's ears at this moment, causing Zhuowen's heart to move. "This bead is a soul treasure?" Zhuowen asked uncertainly. "It has barely reached the level of a low-grade soul treasure. However, this kind of bead is not used to attack. Instead, it is the best supplementary item for some martial artists who practice ghost aura." That black-robed person from earlier, who was neither human nor ghost, should be a martial artist who practices ghost aura. Moreover, in order to refine a evil fiend demon bead of this level, one would at least need the resentment of tens of thousands of people in order to refine it. TSK. No wonder that black-robed person would be locked in the serious criminals area. His hands are stained with the blood of tens of thousands of people. This kind of crime is not light. Brat, currently, the Nirvana demon flame has recovered by around 1/3. It should be sufficient for you to escape from the Hall of Punishment. You possess the Nirvana demon flame within your body. Unless the head of the Hall of Punishment personally takes action, it will really be somewhat difficult for the people here to hold you back. Xiao Hei's words had a hidden meaning. Her voice contained some gloating. Glancing to the side, Zhuowen also saw a group of black armored soldiers standing proudly under the metal cage. They were gathered below, while Yan Jie, Lin Yao and Lin Ku, who were leading the black armored soldiers, stared at Zhuowen, who was within the metal cage, with mocking gazes. Below, the dozens of prisoners who had escaped from the iron cages with great difficulty were all hanging their heads with dispirited expressions. Their hands and feet were bound by black chains. Even the black-robed man with the highest cultivation was not spared. Slightly raising his head, the black-robed man stared at the youth in the iron cage. The corner of his mouth twitched. He didn't think that he would be captured again after escaping. This somewhat dramatic process made him feel extremely aggrieved. Where did this young man come from? There were only 5 young corporeal realm warriors in the Hall of Penal Law. Now, 3 of them had come to encircle this person. Sigh, I'm really unlucky. Not only did I not manage to escape, I even lost the fiendish demonic pearl. While the black-robed man was muttering to himself, Yan Jie, who was at the front of the black-armored soldiers, suddenly took a step forward and coldly said, Zhuowen, you killed 10 black-armored soldiers, barged into the area of heavy criminals, and even released them. These are all heavy crimes. Why don't you confess? If you confess now and cut off one of your arms, perhaps our hall master will spare your life. If you don't confess, we can only execute you on the spot. You're called Yan Jie, right? Why do you have to put on an act now? If you and Gu Shang hadn't indiscriminately forced me, I wouldn't have attacked for no reason. Even more so, I wouldn't have barged into the Hall of Penal Law. Zhuowen sneered. His voice was full of disdain and faint mockery. Behind him, Lin Yao and Link exchanged glances, seeing a sliver of doubt in each other's eyes. They knew that there might be some hidden reasons behind this youth's trespass into the Hall of Penal Law. Thinking back to the arrogant Gu Shang from earlier, they gradually began to understand the situation. Glancing indifferently at Yan Jie, who had an ugly expression, Lin Yao stepped forward and looked straight at Zhuowen. Whether or not there is a hidden reason, you've killed 10 black-armored soldiers. You should know that the black-armored soldiers are elites in the City Lord's mansion. Now that you've lost 10 of them, you can't escape responsibility. We don't need you to cut off one of your arms. As long as you come with us to see the Hall Master, the truth will naturally come to light. At that time, if there really is someone hiding the truth, the Hall Master will naturally give you an explanation. Zhuowen chuckled and said indifferently, I don't trust you at all. I'm afraid that if I really go with you, I won't be able to see the sun tomorrow. The only person I trust is myself. You plan to resist? That's not a wise decision. Although your strength has surprised me, you're not a match for the 3 of us at the corporeal yang stage. Your escape just now is a good indication of this. Lin Yao's face darkened as he narrowed his eyes. Lin Yao. Why waste words with him? This kid's methods are ruthless. Moreover, he killed 10 of my men. If I don't get rid of him now, when will I? If you don't attack, then I won't be polite. Yan Jie snorted coldly. His legs suddenly bounced and his entire body shot towards Zhuowen like an arrow released from a bow. He actually didn't pay attention to Lin Yao and directly attacked. Yan Jie, this guy. Lin Yao's face darkened. He suddenly felt that there was something wrong with Yan Jie today. It was as if he couldn't wait for this young man to die. Zhuowen licked his lips slightly as he watched Yan Jie rushing over. He flipped his right hand and kept the evil fiend devil bead into his Qianquan bag. At this moment, his entire body was slowly covered with a frightening black flame. An intense heat and a strange aura also erupted from within Zhuowen's body. Although the Nirvana demon flame has yet to fully recover, it shouldn't be a big problem to deal with a practitioner who has just entered the corporeal yang stage. Zhuowen muttered in his mouth. He fearlessly faced Yan Jie. His toes suddenly stepped on the metal cage and an ear-piercing clanging sound was immediately produced. Zhuowen's entire body was wrapped in a strange black flame as he fearlessly rushed towards Yan Jie. "Brat, you're courting death." The corner of Yan Jie's mouth revealed a dense cold arc. His hands suddenly lifted upwards as some frightening words were emitted from his mouth. "Sky fault palm." A low roar was emitted. One could see that both of Yan Jie's palms were filled with surging yuan power, after which an enormous wave-like ripple repeatedly spread upwards from his palms. Finally, it agglomerated into an enormous tower above his palms. It suddenly pressed down towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen's expression did not change. His feet continued to move. Both of his fists were covered with black flames. One could vaguely see a strange shadow of a skull within the black flames on his fists. Traces of a somewhat frightening strange laughter slowly sounded. Bang! Zhuowen's attack was direct and violent. He suddenly threw a punch at the enormous tower that was close at hand. The hot black flame was just like a countless number of ants that covered the entire tower within it. Sizzle! A slight burning sound slowly sounded. Immediately, everyone was shocked to discover that the enormous tower in front of Yan Jie had instantly turned into nothingness the moment it came into contact with the black flame. Puff! A mouthful of fresh blood was immediately spat out. Yan Jie's body suddenly shot downwards in front of everyone's shocked gazes. If it was not because a group of black-armored soldiers caught him, Yan Jie would definitely have made close contact with the ground. Hiss! A wave of gasps rose and fell. The scene also became somewhat quiet. Only Yan Jie's coughs were rather ear-piercing in the space. Looking at Yan Jie behind him, who was spitting out blood and his aura was weak, the originally hesitant Lin Yao's pupils suddenly shrank. Traces of shock slowly emerged on his face. This guy seems to be even stronger than before. Even Yan Jie was defeated in one move? Lin Yao's voice revealed a trace of disbelief. Even Link, who had been silent all this while, had a serious look on his face. It was obvious that the young boy in front of him was giving him some pressure. In the corner, the black-robed man, whose hands and feet were chained, sighed. When he saw Yan Jie spitting out blood and flying backwards, his face immediately revealed an expression as if he had seen a ghost. This kid is actually so strong? Even a corporeal yang expert was defeated in one move. Damn it, luckily I was smart and handed over the evil fiend demonic pearl in time. Otherwise, the consequences... Thinking of this, the black-robed man could not help but tremble. His gaze towards Zhuowen also became respectful. This kid is too strange. Let's attack together and take him down first. There's no need to hold back. Lin Yao's expression was grave as he gave Link beside him a look. Link nodded solemnly. Attack! Whoosh whoosh! At his command, Lin Yao and Link disappeared from where they were like ghosts. Two extremely powerful auras erupted from their bodies. Stormy waves palm. Prison blade light. Two low roars rang out at the same time. Soon after, the entire room turned into a stormy sea. The surging waves suddenly swept towards the young man who was standing not far away. Behind the sky-shaking waves, a mountain peak that was several tens of feet tall followed closely behind like Mount Tai, ruthlessly crushing towards the young man's head. Rumble! An earth-shattering sound suddenly rang out. Immediately, the entire heavy punishment room shook violently. Countless rocks poured down from the ceiling, as if the end of the world had arrived. The violent fluctuations caused the two teams of black-armored soldiers and the dozens of felons to involuntarily cover their heads and hide. When the shaking finally stopped, they raised their heads in fear and looked forward. However, the moment they raised their heads, an unbelievable scene slowly appeared before their eyes. Not far away, the young boy stood proudly. He gently raised his right hand, and a blazing black flame suddenly turned into a wall of fire in front of him. Lin Yao and Link's full-strength attacks were completely blocked by this wall of fire. A few people with keen senses could even feel that Lin Yao and Link's attacks were actually gradually weakening in front of the wall of fire. The full-strength attacks of two corporeal yang experts were actually casually blocked by him. How did this kid do it? The black-robed man's voice trembled. His green eyes were filled with shock. Whoosh! Chapter 101. Explanation. Lin Yao and Link were in disbelief as they stared at Zhuowen with their mouths agape. They wanted to say something but found themselves at a loss for words. Zhuowen, I didn't expect you to be hiding such strength. Our combined attack just now couldn't do anything to you. We admit defeat. Lin Yao's lips curled into a bitter smile as he looked helplessly at the young man who was walking over. Then do you still want to stop me? I can honestly say that I have a small conflict with Gushang, but Gushang has always held a grudge against me, so he wanted to use the Hall of Penal Law to get rid of me. That Yan Jie was tempted by Gushang's benefits and joined forces to deal with me. That was why I accidentally killed his black-armored soldiers. Zhuowen shrugged and said somewhat indifferently, As for whether you believe me or not, it's none of my business. In fact, he didn't want to make a big deal out of it. After all, this was the City Lord's mansion's territory. He had already accidentally killed 10 black-armored soldiers. This matter could be big or small, depending on City Lord Gu Yutian's attitude. However, if Zhuowen didn't know what was good for him and killed a corporeal yang stage black-armored commander, then no matter how good Gu Yutian's temper was, it was unlikely that he would forgive him easily. After all, Zhuowen knew the importance of a corporeal yang stage fighter better than anyone else. This was also the reason why he didn't pursue after injuring Yan Jie. Lin Yao and Link looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They knew that even if Zhuowen didn't explain to them, they couldn't stop this youth who was much younger than them. Since we've both lost, we naturally won't and don't have the ability to stop you. Lin Yao and Link smiled bitterly and were the first to move aside. With the two of them taking the lead, the two groups of black-armored soldiers behind them also consciously moved aside to make a path. Zhuowen looked deeply at the two of them, then his figure flashed and instantly dashed through the metal door in front of him, disappearing from everyone's sight. Looking at the disappearing figure through the metal door, Lin Yao slapped his forehead and said helplessly, Could it be that we're old? Who would have thought that such a junior would be able to defeat us? However, the name Zhuowen does sound familiar. Link, have you heard of this name before? Link shook his head slightly, indicating that he wasn't sure either. Then, he kept a straight face and didn't say a word. Lin Yao, you actually let this brat go without permission. If Lord Hall Master finds out about this, you will suffer his wrath. A rather gloomy voice suddenly sounded in this space. Turning his head, Lin Yao frowned and looked at the pale Yan Jie, who was being supported by someone. He said calmly, Yan Jie, we haven't asked you, but you are questioning us first. This young man clearly has no enmity with the Hall of Beheadings, and he doesn't seem to have any ill intentions towards us. So why would he kill your subordinates? Could it be that you're abusing your power to secretly kill that little brother? It seems like this matter has something to do with that silk pants Gushang. I heard that you had some relationship with Gushang in the past. Speaking of this, Lin Yao's face revealed a trace of a meaningful smile, but he didn't say anything. You? Lin Yao, don't slander us. Zhuowen, that brat, personally killed 10 black-armored soldiers. Are the people of the Hall of Beheadings supposed to die for nothing? Yan Jie said with some reluctance. If you want to die, why didn't you stop that little brother when he left? Now that he's gone, you're questioning me. Let me tell you, this little brother was able to break my and Link's combined attack in one move, so he has the ability to kill all three of us. He was already merciful just now. Lin Yao crossed his arms in front of his chest. He felt slightly uncomfortable with Yan Jie's questioning, so he responded coldly. My lord, this Zhuowen is very likely the Zhuowen from the Zhuo family, who recently caused a stir in Rattan Armor City. I heard that this boy made a name for himself in the market battle a few days ago. Not only did he succeed in challenging the resurrection battle, but he also single-handedly killed a warrior of the Wang family who had just entered the corporeal Yang realm. At this time, a black-armored soldier behind Lin Yao respectfully came to his side and spoke with a solemn expression. So it's that guy. I've also heard a little about him. If that little brother is really the rumored Zhuowen, then it's very likely that he came to the city governor's mansion at the invitation of the city governor. After all, this Zhuowen is indeed a rare genius. Even the city governor can't ignore the fact that he can kill someone of the corporeal Yang realm while being in the Yin Void realm. Fortunately, I was wise enough not to fall out with him. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. I just don't know why he suddenly broke into the Hall of Beheadings. Lin Yao thought for a while and muttered to himself with a puzzled expression. Although his words weren't loud, everyone present could hear what he said. Other than being surprised and puzzled, they didn't feel anything. Only Yan Jie's expression changed greatly. He didn't expect this Zhuowen to have such a powerful background. He also didn't know that he was a guest personally invited by the city governor. At this time, he was already cursing Gu Shang in his heart. He didn't expect Gu Shang to not tell him anything about Zhuowen. It's over. Yan Jie's lips trembled slightly as he whispered to himself. He knew that someone who could be personally invited by Gu Yu Tian meant that this person's position in Gu Yu Tian's heart was definitely not low. In an antique room, two tall and straight figures stood quietly in the center. A clear image floated in front of the two figures, and the image showed the scene in every corner of the Hall of Penal Law. Lord Gu, it seems that your eyes are as sharp as ever. Zhuowen, this little guy, has a terrifying talent. He was actually able to defeat 3 warriors of the Yang realm with a cultivation of the Yin Void realm. His character is especially tenacious, like a rock. As long as he continues to grow, his future will be limitless. A white-haired old man in a dark blue robe with a wrinkled face smiled as he looked at a handsome middle-aged man in a purple robe. The purple-robed man was Gu Yu Tian, who had come from the study to the Hall of Beheadings. At this time, he had a smile on his face and said, I was originally worried that this little guy would be in a bad situation after entering the Hall of Beheadings. Now it seems that I worried too much. However, this little guy is clear-headed. After killing the 10 black-armored soldiers, he didn't kill anyone else. If he had killed the black-armored commander-level martial artist, I'm afraid you wouldn't be sitting together with me so calmly. Gu Yu Tian's magnetic voice carried a trace of ridicule. The blue-robed old man standing beside Gu Yu Tian was the hall master of the Hall of Beheadings, Xing Yusen. Although he looked kind, his temper was more explosive than anyone else. He was the kind of person who would start a fight at the slightest disagreement. That's right. This little guy is really clever. However, this matter seems to have arisen because of Gu Shang. I don't know what Lord Gu will do. After all, this little guy seems to be your nephew. Xing Yusen said with a kind smile. Humph. I didn't think that Gu Shang would dare to fake my order and secretly frame Zhuowen. It seems that my nephew is looking down on me more and more. This time, even if Gu Lai comes forward, I won't give him face. Gu Yu Tian said with a gloomy face. Gu Shang is indeed short-sighted. However, as your nephew, it's not good for you to kill him. Why don't you transfer Gu Shang to a remote place and let him take up a position there? That way, you won't be annoyed by what you don't see. Xing Yusen said indifferently. I have the same idea. Gu Shang is relying on his father's name to become unbridled and arrogant. It's time to let him know who's in charge of the city lord's mansion. Let's not talk about him. We should go and welcome Zhuowen. I feel that giving him a spot in the Origin Qi Tower was a very wise decision. Gu Yutian laughed heartily as he took a step forward and disappeared from the room. Perhaps Arat Tan Armor City's main city hasn't obtained a good ranking for a long time. I hope that this little guy can really bring glory to our main city. Xing Yusen shook his head and laughed. He also took a step forward and disappeared from the room in the corridor. A vigorous figure flashed like a ghost. Its speed was so fast that it was difficult for the naked eye to catch it. Xiao He, don't you feel that the corridor has suddenly become much quieter? Logically speaking, after I caused such a ruckus in the Hall of Penal Law, they should have increased their security. Why is it so empty? Noticing the quiet atmosphere in the corridor, Zhuowen frowned and communicated with Xiao He in his mind. I also feel that it's strange. According to this Dragon Lord's investigation, there doesn't seem to be anyone around. Forget it, you don't have to think so much. Let's talk after we get out. Xiao He's voice also sounded with a trace of doubt. Nodding, Zhuowen didn't say anything else and focused on hurrying. Not long after, the entrance to the Hall of Penal Law appeared in front of him. Joy appeared on Zhuowen's face as his footsteps quickened once again. In a few flashes, he appeared outside the door. The glaring white light caused him to involuntarily squint his eyes. After adapting to it for a while, he slowly opened his eyes. Looking around, he was shocked to find that the entrance to the Hall of Penal Law was empty. The two guards who had been there before were nowhere to be seen. However, the two figures in front of him attracted his attention. When he saw the purple-clothed man standing at the front, he was startled. Then, he quickly walked up to the purple-clothed man and cupped his hands respectfully. Zhuowen greets the city lord. I have no intention of entering the Hall of Penal Law. Don't worry, I know. Stand by my side for now. I'll give you an explanation later, Gu Yutian said with a faint smile as he patted Zhuowen's shoulder. Zhuowen was taken aback and glanced at Gu Yutian again. He knew that Gu Yutian probably already knew what had happened in the Hall of Penal Law. Otherwise, he wouldn't have acted in such a manner. He cupped his hands again and glanced at the old man in blue standing behind Gu Yutian. Zhuowen stood to the side in silence. He could feel that whether it was Gu Yutian or the old man in blue, the pressure they gave him was like Mount Tai pressing down on him. It was difficult for him to breathe. It was obvious that their cultivation was far above his for them to be able to exert such pressure. Chapter 102. Yuan Qi Tower Clang. The sound of metal hitting the ground suddenly rang out. Gu Shang's hands and feet were covered in heavy shackles. His clothes were tattered, his hair was disheveled, and his face was pale and powerless. The ones who had detained Gu Shang were Lin Yao and Ling. Zhuowen could even see Yan Jie, who had a strange expression on his face, behind the two of them. Your guts are getting bigger and bigger. How can you treat me like this? I, Gu Shang, am the son of Gu Lai. If my father sees this, even if you're from the Hall of Law and Punishment, no one will be able to protect you. Although Gu Shang's figure was in a sorry state and his expression was dispirited, his attitude was still as rude and arrogant as before. Lin Yao and the rest did not pay any attention to the noisy Gu Shang. Instead, they silently brought Gu Shang forward. When they arrived in front of Gu Yutian, they respectfully bowed to Gu Yutian and the blue-clothed elder and said, City Lord, Hall Master, Gu Shang has been brought here. Gu Yutian nodded slightly, but before he could say anything, Gu Shang had already interrupted. Eldest uncle, these people from the Hall of Law and Punishment are getting more and more outrageous. They actually dare to detain me. Hurry up and get them to release me from these shackles. They're making my entire body uncomfortable. Gu Yutian glanced at Gu Shang, then raised his right hand. Under everyone's gaze, he gave Gu Shang a fierce slap and said indifferently, Speak. Why did you fake my orders and secretly bring little brother Zhuowen to the Hall of Law and Punishment? Don't you know that he's an esteemed guest that I invited? Gu Shang's right cheek immediately swelled up, and cherry-red blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. At this moment, he was completely stunned. He never thought that his uncle, who used to be so gentle, would actually give him a slap. Furthermore, he did not hold back at all. He could clearly feel the stinging pain coming from his right cheek. A resounding slap resounded across the entire area. The others didn't have any strange expressions on their faces. Only Yan Jie, who was standing behind the black-armored soldiers, was trembling with fear. He never thought that Gu Yutian would actually give Gu Shang a slap without any mercy. Yan Jie's mouth twitched as he took another look at the calm-looking young man standing beside Gu Yutian. A bitter smile appeared on his face. He knew that he had really offended someone incredible this time. Even City Lord Gu Yutian had beaten up his own nephew for this person. It was easy to imagine how important Zhuowen was to Gu Yutian. "Uncle, why did you hit me? I'm your nephew." Gu Shang was still in disbelief. He covered his right cheek and shouted hysterically. "You still recognize me as your uncle? You falsified my orders and tried to murder the guests I invited. Do you still respect me as your uncle? Are you the city lord or am I the city lord?" Gu Yuetian's gaze grew even colder as he swung his hand once again, viciously slapping Gu Shang on the left side of his face. Under the immense force, Gu Shang was thrown to one side like a discarded piece of trash, rolling on the ground for more than 10 rounds before coming to a stop. Fresh blood mixed with broken teeth spurted out from his mouth. His entire aura had withered to the extreme as he collapsed onto the ground. Gu Shang stared in disbelief at Gu Yutian, who was standing not too far away. A look of terror instantly surfaced on his face. He knew that this eldest uncle of his was truly enraged. "Uncle, I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again," Gu Shang said in a low voice as he struggled to prop himself up. "Do you really know your mistake? But that's fine. You don't have to stay in the main city anymore. I will arrange for you to take up a post in the Luo Yun town in the southeast. You don't have to return to the main city anymore," Gu Yutian said indifferently as he looked at Gu Shang. Gu Shang's body trembled as soon as he heard this. He secretly glanced at Gu Yutian and lowered his head in disappointment. Luo Yun town was very far from Vine Armor City. Furthermore, it was famous for being remote and barren. No one was willing to take up a post there, let alone the noble nephew of the city lord, Gu Shang. Gu Yutian obviously didn't want Gu Shang to stay in the main city and had deliberately demoted him to Luo Yun town. The surrounding people looked at the stunned Gu Shang and revealed a look of pity. They knew that Gu Shang's future was over. After Gu Yutian finished speaking, the blue-clothed elder behind him stepped forward. The wrinkles between his eyebrows gathered together. "Yan Jie, get out here." The blue-clothed elder's voice was loud and clear, full of energy. Yan Jie, who was hiding behind the black-armored soldiers, immediately turned pale. He knew that it was his turn now. Under the gaze of the black-armored soldiers, Yan Jie could only brace himself and walk in front of the blue-clothed elder. He forced a smile and said, "Hall Master Xing, why did you call for me? What's the matter? You're still speaking in riddles in front of this old man. You're simply courting death." The blue-clothed elder clearly had a fiery temper. His right hand turned into a claw and grabbed Yan Jie's shoulder. His legs trembled and a powerful aura immediately pressed down on Yan Jie, forcing him to kneel down. "Don't think that I don't know about the matter between you and Gu Shang. Let me tell you, the city lord and I have seen every single action in the Hall of Penal Law." Yan Jie's face turned pale and his entire body trembled. Since the hall master had said so, then the matter of him colluding with Gu Shang could not be hidden from the two of them. "Hall master, city lord, Gu Shang forced me to do all of this. It has nothing to do with me. I beg you to spare my life. I was also muddle-headed." I did not know that young Master Zhuowen was an esteemed guest invited by the city lord. The blue-clothed elder suddenly lifted Yan Jie and walked in front of Zhuowen. The evil aura on his face immediately turned into a smile as he said, "Little brother Zhuowen, I'll leave this person to you. Whether you want to kill him or cut him to pieces, it's up to you." Zhuowen cast a sidelong glance at the trembling Yan Jie. He knew that the blue-clothed elder and Guyu Tian were only doing this to give him an explanation. Smiling, Zhuowen slowly reached out his right hand and suddenly grabbed Yan Jie's neck. A strange black flame surged out from his palm. Yan Jie widened his eyes in disbelief as he looked at the young man in front of him. With a scream, he turned into ashes. Clapping his hands, Zhuowen maintained a quiet smile on his face from the beginning to the end. However, it was this kind of smile that made everyone who saw it feel a chill. "This is my punishment. What do the two of you think?" An indifferent voice slowly spread out, causing everyone's faces to involuntarily twitch. Especially Lin Yao, Gu Shang and the rest. It was as if this was the first time they had met the youth in front of them. They did not expect this youth to kill without hesitation. The blue-clothed elder was also stunned. Soon after, he laughed and said, "Little brother Zhuowen, your methods are indeed decisive. Not bad." Guyu Tian also nodded. With a gentle expression, he said, "Zhuowen, this is the explanation I want to give you. Are you satisfied?" "I'm very satisfied. Thank you, City Lord, for your help." Zhuowen cupped his hands and said respectfully. He did not dare to slight the #1 expert of Rattan Armor City. "Let's go. You also know the reason why I invited you here this time. The matter of the Yuan Energy Tower involves a lot of things. Come to my study and I will tell you in detail about the Yuan Energy Tower." Guyu Tian waved his sleeve. Without waiting for Zhuowen's reply, a surge of Yuan power carried Zhuowen and the blue-clothed elder and disappeared from the spot, leaving behind a soulless Gu Shang. Not long after, a sturdy figure arrived in front of Gu Shang. The figure slowly squatted down and helped him up. "Father, you have to make a decision for me. I don't want to go to Luo Yun Town. I want to stay in Rattan Armor City." Gu Shang looked at the sturdy middle-aged man in front of him and actually burst into tears. This figure was Gu Lai. At this moment, he looked at Gu Shang with a complicated expression. He sighed and said, "This time, Father can't make a decision for you. Big Brother is really angry. He didn't kill you because you are his nephew. Sigh, perhaps going against Zhuowen back then was really a mistake." In the antique study, Guyu Tian sat at the table with a smile on his face. The blue-clothed elder and Zhuowen sat to the side. In addition to the three of them, there was also a beautiful figure standing beside Guyu Tian. It was the beautiful Guyu. At this moment, Guyu's beautiful eyes were filled with curiosity as she sized up the expressionless young man in the side seat. She had heard that the young man in front of her had just turned the Hall of Penal Law into a mess. Even 3 corporeal Yang practitioners could not do anything to him. Zhuowen naturally felt Guyu's burning gaze. Although being watched by a beautiful woman could be considered a blissful thing, after a long time, Zhuowen's skin could not bear it no matter how thick it was. Therefore, he turned a blind eye to Guyu's gaze. Little brother Zhuowen should have some understanding of the Origin Qi Tower. Guyu Tian lightly tapped the table and asked with a smile. "I heard grandfather talk about it before, but it wasn't too detailed. It is said that the Origin Qi inside the Origin Qi Tower is thousands of times denser than the outside world. A practitioner's cultivation inside is basically twice as fast with half the effort. It can be said to be a practitioner's paradise." Zhuowen calmly said. "Just as your grandfather said, the Origin Qi inside the Origin Qi Tower is thousands of times denser than the outside world. Moreover, there are many ruins inside. These ruins contain precious cultivation methods, spiritual treasures, spiritual herbs, and so on. If a practitioner is lucky enough to obtain the treasures inside, their cultivation will definitely advance by leaps and bounds. I once saw a practitioner come out of the Origin Chi Tower and obtain a high-level spiritual treasure. With this spiritual treasure, he dared to fight against an ultimate Emperor Realm practitioner when he was only at the peak of the King Zhao Realm. At that time, it was quite a sensation. Moreover, every practitioner who enters the Origin Chi Tower, as long as they come out alive, is at least at the King Zhao Realm. Some have even reached the ultimate Emperor Realm. Moreover, the condition to enter the Origin Chi Tower is to be below the King Zhao Realm and under the age of 30. Practitioners can only stay in the Origin Chi Tower for 5 years. After 5 years, they will automatically come out. As Gu Yuetian spoke till here, he stopped at an opportune moment as he looked towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen was also a little surprised. According to Gu Yuetian, one could only stay in the Origin Chi Tower for 5 years. Then, practitioners below the King Zhao Realm could basically break through to the King Zhao Realm. This point alone was enough to show the benefits of the Origin Chi Tower. One had to know that the heads of the 3 major families in Rattan Armor City were already in their 60s, but they were still half a step into the King Zhao Realm. From this point, one could see how difficult it was to break through to the King Zhao Realm. Chapter 103. Dragon Rune Saber. The Qing Xian Empire is vast and is divided into 9 counties. The imperial capital county, which is located in the center of the empire, is the leader. The number 1 expert of the empire, the Qing Emperor, resides in the imperial capital county and wields imperial power. He is a supreme existence. The other 8 counties will respect the imperial capital county and will follow the imperial capital county's lead. In the entire Qing Xian Empire, there are a total of 9 Origin Chi Towers, which are located in the capitals of the 9 counties. Rattan Armor City is located in Muqin County in the southeast. As for Rattan Armor City, it can only be considered a low-level city. In Muqin County, there are tens of thousands of low-level cities like Rattan Armor City. Above that are mid-level cities, high-level cities, and powerful super-cities. It can be said that the Origin Chi Tower battle is a battle between countless geniuses in Muqin County. The final victor will be a genius among geniuses and will receive countless benefits. At this point, Gu Yutian's expression became somewhat excited. It was obvious that even he was unable to remain calm about the Origin Chi Tower battle. After hearing Gu Yutian's introduction, Zhuowen's heart also surged with excitement. Governor, could it be that the final victor of the Origin Chi Tower battle will be conferred the title of Marquis? Haha. Being conferred the title of Marquis is not that easy. The Origin Chi Tower battle is only a competition between geniuses in the county. After the Origin Chi Tower battle ends, each county will select the top 100 geniuses to participate in the War of the 9 Counties. The War of the 9 Counties is the key to being conferred the title of Marquis. Only the geniuses who reach the end of the War of the 9 Counties will be conferred the title of Marquis by the Qing Emperor himself. However, the War of the 9 Counties is a bit far away from us. Our Rattan Armor City is only a low-level city. Among the tens of thousands of geniuses in Muqin County, it will be very difficult for us to enter the top 100. However, if any of you can enter the top 1,000, then the Marquis will reward you and our Rattan Armor City will be promoted to an intermediate city. Gu Yutian slowly regained his composure and explained to Zhuowen with a gentle expression. On the other hand, Zhuowen was lost in thought. It seemed that becoming a Marquis wasn't something that could be easily achieved. He didn't expect that there would be a battle of the 9 countries in addition to the battle of the Vitality Tower. Zhuowen knew that the battle of the 9 countries was the true competition between geniuses. After all, the contestants participating in the battle of the 9 countries were the cream of the crop. However, the Essence Chi Tower is fraught with dangers. Many young warriors will fall in every Essence Chi Tower battle, so this opportunity comes with risks. I can represent the City Lord's mansion to give you a spot. Do you agree? At this point, Gu Tian looked cautiously at the young man in front of him, who was deep in thought. There was a trace of anticipation in his eyes. He did not know why, but he felt that the young man in front of him would give him a different feeling. However, you don't have to rush to agree. The quota in my hands right now isn't an official quota, but a substitute quota. Whether or not you can participate in the Vitality Tower battle will ultimately depend on you. Not an official quota. Zhuowen was curious and asked doubtfully. Although our Rattan Armor City is only a low-level city, its territory is not small. There are many cities and towns gathered around. In addition to these cities and towns, some warriors have also established many gangs. These are not small forces, and they are all under the jurisdiction of Rattan Armor City. Rattan Armor City only has 4 quotas, but there are many people and not enough porridge. Therefore, if our main city wants to obtain an official quota, we must compete with the surrounding forces. Gu Tian suddenly fell silent at this point. He only looked at Zhuowen and waited for his answer. Zhuowen thought for a moment and simply agreed. After all, the Battle of the Vitality Tower was a rare opportunity, and he didn't want to give it up. Good. Zhuowen, you really didn't disappoint me. The competition for the quota will be set in half a year. At that time, all the surrounding forces of Rattan Armor City will participate in this grand occasion. Although you have the help of the Nirvana Demon Flame, your cultivation is too weak. You should train more in this half a year. I look forward to your performance in half a year. Gu Tian's face immediately revealed a hearty smile. He heavily patted Zhuowen's shoulder and continued, "Since you are representing the City Lord's mansion, as the City Lord, I naturally have to show my appreciation." As he spoke, Gu Tian waved his right hand and 3 balls of light suddenly appeared in front of him. There are 3 low-level soul treasures in these 3 balls of light. I will allow you to choose one of them. When Gu Tian took out the 3 balls of light, the blue-clothed old man and Gu were shocked. They didn't expect that Gu Tian would actually take out a low-level soul treasure. Although they knew that Gu Tian's actions were to rope in Zhuowen, the cost of doing so was quite heavy. Zhuowen was shocked. He calmly looked at Gu Tian and confirmed that he wasn't joking. Only then did he respectfully cup his hands together and seriously look at the balls of light in front of him. He clearly knew that Gu Tian's actions were clearly to rope him in. However, the fact that he was able to take out a soul treasure, even though it was a low-level soul treasure, showed Gu Tian's sincerity. After all, low-level soul treasures were extremely rare in Rattan Armor City. If their Zhuo family didn't have the gravity tower passed down from their ancestors, their large Zhuo family wouldn't even be able to take out a single soul treasure. This already showed how rare soul treasures were. Forcefully suppressing the excitement in his heart, Zhuowen focused his gaze on the 3 balls of light. The first thing that caught his eye was the leftmost cluster of light. Inside the cluster of light was a small longsword. The surface of the longsword was cold, and the blade was covered with strange runes. A trace of strange fluctuation was transmitted from it. Looking at the ball of light in the middle, there was actually a golden ring. The ring's surface was in the shape of a snake. It was as if a snake was biting its tail to form a ring. The aura it emitted was almost the same as the longsword. Finally, Zhuowen's gaze landed on the rightmost ball of light. However, when Zhuowen's gaze focused on this ball of light, he couldn't help but be startled. This was because the ball of light was actually a broken broadsword. Around the body of the broadsword, there was a pattern of a dragon. It looked very majestic. However, there was a gap in the handle of the broadsword. It was as if a large part of the handle was broken off. It was very obvious that this broadsword was a type of broadsword with a long handle. However, for some reason, a large part of the handle was missing. Now, there was only a short handle that could barely be grasped. This saber numinous treasure was clearly a broken numinous treasure. Furthermore, compared to the other two balls of light, this saber-numinous treasure's aura was clearly much weaker. Clearly, due to the fact that a part of it was missing, this numinous treasure's power had decreased significantly. After taking another look at this broadsword, Zhuowen shook his head. He could feel that the aura of this broadsword was too weak. Its power was definitely much weaker than the other two soul treasures. Therefore, Zhuowen immediately gave up on this broadsword. However, just as Zhuowen was about to choose from the other two soul treasures, Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out in his mind. Kid, choose that broadsword. Trust me, that thing is very beneficial to you. After Xiao Hei finished speaking, there was no more sound. It was obvious that he was afraid that Gu Yutian would notice something. After receiving Xiao Hei's reminder, Zhuowen also looked at the broken broadsword on the rightmost side for the first time. He knew that since Xiao Hei had asked him to choose this broadsword, he naturally had his reasons. Zhuowen, have you thought about which one to choose? Gu Yutian smiled warmly and asked. After pondering for a while, Zhuowen finally chose to believe Xiao Hei. He reached out his right hand and grabbed the broken broadsword in the rightmost ball of light. He calmly said, I choose this broadsword soul treasure. The moment Zhuowen grabbed the handle of the broadsword, he instantly felt the dragon energy of the five-clawed golden dragon that filled his body suddenly boil. A sense of excitement that he had never felt before spread from his spine to his entire body. This broadsword, with this thought in mind, Zhuowen pulled out the broadsword from the ball of light with his right hand. At the same time, a powerful aura inexplicably whistled out from the broadsword. Awo! The moment the broadsword was pulled out, the powerful aura actually caused a huge airflow. This airflow actually automatically turned into a huge dragon head behind Zhuowen. A sharp cry that seemed to come from ancient times was emitted from the broadsword. The dragon head quietly stared at Zhuowen, then immediately dispersed into an invisible airflow and returned to the broadsword. It has the aura of a dragon. Zhuowen's eyes suddenly lit up as he softly said the words that he had not finished speaking. Gu Yutian also did not expect that when the broken broadsword's soul treasure was pulled out, there would be such a huge movement. After a thoughtful look flashed across his eyes, he smiled and said, I obtained this broadsword soul treasure by chance in a historical relic. Because there are dragon patterns on the blade, I named it the Dragon Vein Broadsword. According to my estimation, when this broadsword was intact, it was at least a middle-level soul treasure. Unfortunately, it is severely damaged. Now it can barely reach the level of a low-level soul treasure. In terms of power, it is even worse than ordinary low-level soul treasures. Zhuowen, have you thought about it? Are you really going to choose this Dragon Vein Broadsword? Zhuowen smiled and said calmly, I choose this broadsword. I have made up my mind. Since it is your choice, then you should first drip your blood to recognize it as your master. Soul treasures are different from ordinary weapons in that you need to drip your blood to recognize it as your master. After that, even if others get it, they can't use it. Gu Yutian could feel the determination in Zhuowen's eyes, so he did not try to persuade him. Zhuowen nodded and directly dripped his blood essence into the broadsword. After the blood essence entered the broadsword, Zhuowen felt a blood connection with the broadsword. When he held the broadsword just now, Zhuowen could feel that this broadsword was not ordinary. Although it was severely damaged, he believed that Xiao Hei must have her own reasons for letting him choose this broadsword. After choosing his soul treasure, Zhuowen exchanged a few more words with Gu Yutian, then took the initiative to leave. Looking at Zhuowen's departing figure, Gu Yutian suddenly said to Gu Yu, "You heir, what do you think of Zhuowen?" Gu Yu was stunned, then the corners of her mouth curled into a faint smile. This guy is actually not bad. No matter if it is talent or strength, he has far surpassed his peers. Zhuowen is indeed not bad. Although he is young, his temperament is not bad. Even when facing me, the city lord, he is neither servile nor overbearing. Father saw you staring at him just now. Have you taken a fancy to him? Gu Tian looked at his daughter beside him, the corners of his mouth curling into a mischievous smile. Chapter 104. The arrival of an expert. After walking out of the city lord's mansion, Zhuowen was not in a hurry to return to the Zhuo family. Instead, he leisurely strolled around the street. Looking at the noisy crowd on the street, Zhuowen could not help but reveal a trace of emotion on his face. Ever since he had transmigrated, Zhuowen had been desperately cultivating and constantly becoming stronger. At the beginning, his goal was very simple. He just did not want to be oppressed. When he finally obtained a high position in the family, to the point where his status was comparable to that of the patriarch, his gaze was no longer placed on the small family. His goal of constantly becoming stronger was no longer as pure as before. Instead, it became somewhat forced and habitual. However, he knew that this continent was very big. If he wanted to truly experience the glory of the entire continent, he could only see further by climbing to the peak. Since I have already stepped on the path of a warrior, there is no possibility of backing out. Only by constantly moving forward will I not be buried by time. The world is very big, but I still have to give it a try. The young man reached out with one hand and grabbed the resplendent sun in the sky. A heroic feeling slowly rose from the bottom of his heart. He knew that since the heavens had given him a chance to be reborn, he would definitely grasp this opportunity and make his life rich and colorful. Brat, even if you want to back out, this Dragon Lord is not willing. Brat, do you still need to help this Dragon Lord look for spiritual medicine to recover his soul? When you go out in the future, it will be enough for you to torment yourself. However, the Origin Energy Tower is also an opportunity. There are countless treasures in it. Perhaps you can find something that this Dragon Lord needs? An untimely voice suddenly rang out in Zhuowen's mind. Zhuowen rolled his eyes and calmly said, "Although the Origin Energy Tower is a great opportunity, the risk is also not small. I will naturally do my best to help you." That's good. This Dragon Lord has not given you so many benefits in vain. However, ever since your Nirvana demon flame absorbed the resentment of the evil fiend demonic pearl, it seems to be hiding in the evil fiend demonic pearl and sleeping. Zhuowen was startled. He turned to a secluded corner and took out a black bead from his Qianquan bag. It was the evil spirit bead he got from the black-robed man in the Hall of Punishment. The surface of the evil fiend devil pearl no longer emitted an evil aura of resentment. Instead, it had become much quieter and appeared ordinary. However, if one were to observe it carefully, one would be able to see that there was a trace of flowing flame deep within the pearl. The flame was only the size of a thumb. This wisp of flame was the true body of the Nirvana demon flame. It is likely that this Nirvana demon flame has absorbed all the resentment within the demonic fiend bead. It should be planning to sleep and properly digest it. Xiao Hei's voice sounded once again. When will the Nirvana devil flame awaken? After all, the reason why my strength is comparable to a young corporeal realm warrior is mainly because of the Nirvana demon flame. Without the Nirvana demon flame, my strength is at most equivalent to the first level of the Void realm. Zhuowen looked at the black bead in his hand with some difficulty, and a trace of worry appeared on his face. The sleeping time of the Nirvana demon flame is not fixed. However, you should not completely rely on the Nirvana demon flame. Your current cultivation is indeed a little low. I can see that you are not far from the first level of the Void realm. When you advance to the first level of the Void realm, you can use the Ice Fiend Cold Bead to condense the Void armor. At that time, your strength will be one of the best in the entire Void realm. Xiao Hei's voice was slightly dissatisfied. Apparently, she was not very interested in Zhuowen's reliance on the Nirvana demon flame. Alright, I know. This will have to wait until I advance to the first level of the Void realm. After all, I have just advanced to the Void realm not long ago. There is still some distance between me and the first level of the Void realm. Moreover, I am only using the Nirvana Demon Flame as a trump card. Zhuowen scratched his head and said awkwardly. Also, just now in the governor's mansion, why did you let me choose the broken saber? No matter how I looked at it, the aura of the saber was weaker than the other two spiritual treasures. Zhuowen seemed to have thought of something and suddenly asked. You also felt the aura of the dragon on the saber. It must have an extraordinary origin. Moreover, there is the existence of the dragon chi in your body. It can be said that it complements the saber perfectly. Its power should be stronger than an ordinary low-level spiritual treasure. Moreover, I can feel the extraordinariness of the dragon vein saber. Perhaps it will bring you undeniable benefits in the future. Hearing this, Zhuowen felt relieved. The moment he took the saber, he could feel the boiling dragon chi in his body. Perhaps it was just as Xiao He had said. In his hands, the saber could exert a different power. Boom! A huge rock that was dozens of feet tall suddenly fell from the sky, bringing with it sporadic sparks due to the friction with the air. It fiercely crashed into the middle of the street, and an invisible wave spread out in all directions like ripples. The moment the rock fell, the originally densely packed crowd on the street turned into minced meat. Countless bright red blood stained the bluestone ground. Then, countless screams suddenly spread out, like the mournful wails of ghosts and wolves. In an instant, the originally peaceful street turned into Azura hell. Blood and screams mixed together. The soaring flames in the sky were especially dazzling in the midst of the pervasive black smoke. Not far from the huge crater created by the rock, in a secluded alley, Zhuowen stared blankly at the street that had turned into Azura hell. Traces of astonishment slowly rose from the bottom of his eyes. What's going on? Just as Zhuowen finished speaking, a powerful pressure suddenly descended from the sky. The pressure was like a heavy mountain that weighed down on everyone. Even Zhuowen could not help but kneel on one knee under this pressure. Bang! The bluestone ground under his knee suddenly shattered, and a trace of cherry-red blood quietly flowed out from under his foot. As soon as this pressure descended, the screams on the street abruptly stopped. Raising his head to look, Zhuowen immediately sucked in a breath of air. The ordinary people who were originally still alive had actually exploded under this pressure. They were like human bombs, with blood and broken limbs scattering all over the ground. Only a few warriors with some cultivation could barely hold on, but their bodies still cracked, and they knelt on the ground, unable to move. Second sky of rampage! A roar came from his throat, and countless blood vessels on the surface of his body suddenly burst open. Immediately, his body was filled with an incomparably powerful strength, and the pressure on his body was also offset by the strength of his physical body at this moment. With a leap, Zhuowen immediately climbed to the top of a tall building closest to him. Standing on the top of the building, he looked into the distance, and an extremely shocking scene suddenly appeared in front of him. In the distance, two black dots suddenly shot toward Vine Armor City at a dazzling speed. Moreover, wherever the two black dots passed by, everything was reduced to nothingness. Whether it was the hills or the forest, they were all reduced to a barren wasteland. As the two black dots continued to approach, the pressure in Rattan Armor City became more and more terrifying. Some of the ordinary houses even began to collapse, and some of the gravel began to float up. An intense pressure wave spread throughout the entire Rattan Armor City. At this moment, all of the strong people in Rattan Armor City had climbed to a high point. Their eyes were fixed on the two Xiao He dots that were rushing towards them at a fast speed. They could feel that the power contained in these two Xiao He dots was not something they could withstand. What a powerful force! Are those two warriors as well? I didn't think that they would possess such great strength. They're so far away, but the pressure they create can still cause such great destruction. Zhuowen stared at the black dots in the sky. As the black dots drew closer, he could clearly see the true faces of the two Xiao He dots. They were actually two warriors. Kid, you have to be careful. These two guys have already surpassed the ultimate Emperor realm. They might have already reached the legendary realm of 4 sovereigns. A casual attack from such a strong person can destroy your Rattan armor city. Damn it, how can such strong people appear in a small place like yours? Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out. There was a trace of panic and exasperation in his voice. Realm of 4 sovereigns? Zhuowen's face finally revealed an expression of deep shock. He knew that the ultimate Emperor realm was above the Zhao King realm, and above that was the realm of 4 sovereigns. One had to know that warriors of the realm of 4 sovereigns were extremely rare in the entire Qing Xian Empire. Even the Qing Emperor did not dare to slight such a strong person. After all, after the realm of 4 sovereigns was the imperial power realm. Once one crossed the threshold of the realm of 4 sovereigns, one could reach the level of the Qing Emperor. In the Qing Xian Empire, if an ultimate Emperor realm warrior could reach the level of Marquis, then the status of a warrior of the realm of 4 sovereigns would reach a higher level. They would reach the supreme title of Grand Commandant. The Grand Commandant's status was only below the Qing Emperor's, so it was clear how high the status of a warrior of the realm of 4 sovereigns was. At the bottom of the towering city walls of Rattan Armor City, countless strong cultivators of the city lord's manor stood on top. Their faces were filled with fear and worry as they stared at the 2 strong cultivators in the sky. The city lord, Gu Yu Tian, was standing among them. Behind Gu Yu Tian was the blue-robed elder, Xing Yusen. One of the 2 strong cultivators in the sky wore blood-red armor. The surface of the armor had many sinister spikes. At the same time, the surface of the armor would occasionally glow with a strange blood-red light. A domineering aura instantly flowed out from this strong cultivator. The other strong cultivator wore green armor. A faint green light surrounded the armor like a perfect protective shield. An aura that was not weaker than the one wearing the blood-red armor also flowed out from this strong cultivator's body. Why have these 2 unparalleled strong cultivators come to our small Rattan armor city? Gu Yu Tian looked at the 2 paragon-level cultivators not far away. Suddenly, he thought of something and cold sweat appeared on his face. You 2, hurry up and invite Master Tsangmu. I'm afraid we have to invite him to set up the defensive formation. It's very likely that these 2 paragon-level experts will fight near our Vine armor city. With the strength of a paragon-level armored soldier, it's enough to destroy our entire Vine armor city. Gu Yu Tian instructed the 2 subordinates beside him with a heart-wrenching expression. The 2 subordinates also realized the severity of the situation. They responded and immediately ran to the trading center in Rattan Armor City to invite Master Tsangmu over. I hope we can still make it. Gu Yu Tian looked worriedly at the 2 unparalleled strong cultivators not far away. He was very clear about the strength of the paragon-level cultivators. They only needed to wave their hands and the entire Rattan Armor City would be turned into ruins. Just as Gu Yu Tian was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, the 2 subordinates who had just left finally hurried back. Behind them was Master Tsangmu, who was wearing a long robe and had a ruddy complexion. At this moment, Master Tsangmu's gaze was rather serious as he looked at the 2 strong cultivators who were quietly floating in the sky not far away. For some reason, the 2 strong cultivators suddenly stopped in the air above a small hill near Rattan Armor City and faced each other from a distance. Immediately activate the defensive formation. Brother Gu, you need to gather all the warriors in the city to maintain the formation. Chapter 105. Chapter 105 Armor Soul Materialization Bang. The dozens of crystals shattered and turned into powder. Finally, they formed a rather strange array in front of Grandmaster Kuraki. The center of the array was engraved with complicated runes, and traces of strange energy were emitted from the array. At this moment, Master Kuraki's expression was quite serious. He formed another seal with both hands and pushed it forward. The magic array in front of him immediately swept towards the sky above Rattan Armor City. Finally, it turned into a huge magic array in the center of the city, enveloping the entire city. At the same time, Gu Tian gathered all the warriors above the Void realm in the Castellan mansion and stood behind Master Kuraki. Brother Gu, these 3 huge crystals are the core of the defensive formation. Protect them at all times. Also, all of you need to continuously transfer your origin energy into the crystals. You must not stop. Grandmaster Kuraki took out 3 palm-sized round crystals from his bosom with a solemn expression and tossed them to Gu Yuetian, who was behind him. Gu Yuetian nodded his head heavily. Shortly after, he arranged for his men to maintain the supply of elemental energy to the 3 formation eye crystals. Not long after, the 3 formation eye crystals that received the elemental energy shot out 3 milky white light pillars. The 3 pillars of light suddenly entered the magic array in the sky above the city center. The magic array instantly emitted a dazzling brilliance. Then, everyone discovered that within a radius of 10 miles around Rattan Armor City, a layer of barrier had unknowingly appeared. As soon as the barrier appeared, the terrifying pressure in the city dissipated. Everyone felt the pressure on their bodies lessen significantly. Is this the power of the origin formation? Although it's only a grade 3 origin array, to be able to envelop the entire city and neutralize the pressure of 4 exalted realm martial artists, the effect of an origin array is indeed greater than an origin crystal. At the top of a pavilion, Zhuowen stared at the barrier that had suddenly appeared around the city, and a moved expression appeared on his face. He had finally experienced the terrifying effects of an Arcana Master. Perhaps an Arcana Master's individual combat ability was inferior to a cultivator's, but this kind of area of effect origin formation was extremely frightening. If a mere 3rd-grade origin formation was already so powerful, then what about an even higher grade origin formation? This is the first time I've seen an Arcana Master's origin formation. This was an eye-opener for him. It seemed that there was a reason why Arcanists were so respected in this era. It's only a 3rd-grade origin array, but if it's used in a war, it's 1,000 times better than a cultivator's. In his sea of consciousness, Xiao Hei's voice carried a trace of admiration and admiration. However, the destructive power brought about by the battle between the 4 exalted realm experts is not that easy to withstand. Even if it is only the aftermath of their battle, the destructive power is still extremely terrifying. Through the city's barrier, Zhuowen's gaze focused on the 2 terrifying figures on a small hill not far from Rattan Armor City. A trace of worry flashed through his eyes. Above the small hill, the expert in blood-red armor stared at the calm expert in green armor in front of him and laughed domineeringly. Aoki, I really didn't expect you to chase me all the way from the imperial capital of the Qingxian Empire to this remote little city. As the Hall Master of the Qingxian Empire's Blue Dragon Hall, you really think highly of me. At this moment, Aoki, who was dressed in green armor, had a calm expression. He only said indifferently, Tyrant blood. If you hand over the holy talisman now, I can let bygones be bygones for you breaking into the Blue Dragon Hall and stealing the holy talisman. Furthermore, I can accept you into the Blue Dragon Hall. It's not too late for you to turn back now. Turn back? This daddy and your Blue Dragon Hall are absolutely irreconcilable. You bunch of hypocrites. Every day, you pretend to be benevolent and righteous on the surface, but in reality, you're all doing despicable and shameless things behind my back. Even if I, Tyrant Blood, have to be a villain, I won't be a hypocrite with your Blue Dragon Hall. Tyrant Blood laughed arrogantly. Aoki's face instantly darkened. He said coldly, Since you're courting death, then don't blame me. You're the one who's been chirping all this time. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Tyrant Blood roared towards the sky. Then, the blood-red armor on Tyrant Blood's body suddenly emitted a dazzling blood-red light. In the air, it looked both enchanting and strange. The blood-red light was like a living worm that slowly wriggled from Tyrant Blood's body to his back. Finally, it condensed into a blood-red shadow that was several hundred feet tall. The shadow was a human figure with long blood-red hair. Its scarlet eyes slowly opened. At the same time, it held a long blade that was covered in blood-red light. The moment the blood-red shadow appeared, it roared at Aoki. It was deafening and resounded through the clouds. It was like a huge bell that shook the hearts of everyone in Rattan Armor City. Some of the warriors with insufficient cultivation spat out blood from this roar. Their bodies were continuously pushed back, and their faces were filled with shock. Tyrant Blood tapped the ground with the tip of his foot. After a few leaps in the air, he stood on the shoulder of the blood-red shadow. With his hands behind his back, he calmly stared at Aoki, who was floating in the air not far away. "This is your armor spirit, Wild Blood. Looks like it really lives up to its name." Aoki smiled faintly. Then, his entire body emitted a green light as he released his own armor spirit. Aoki's armor spirit was a small green sapling. When Aoki released his armor spirit, this insignificant sapling instantly transformed into a towering tree. Green light illuminated the land, showing that it was full of vitality. The green tree was like a pillar that supported the heavens. Countless vines densely covered the surroundings of the tree. Aoki stood on a green leaf with an indifferent expression. "Tyrant Blood, your armor spirit, Wild Blood, is innately countered by my armor spirit, Flux Wood. Our cultivation is about the same. You are not my opponent. Now I will give you one more chance. Hand over the holy symbol and enter the Blue Dragon Hall. Then I will let bygones be bygones." Aoki stared at Tyrant Blood and said indifferently, "So much nonsense. Do you really think that I am afraid of you?" Tyrant Blood laughed loudly. His body was like an arrow that had been released from a bow as he rapidly flew towards Aoki. Behind him, the blood-colored figure raised its long blade and brandished it a few times. Then, like a hunting viper, it slashed towards Aoki's head. Endless bloody light spread out. At this moment, it was as if the entire sky had fallen into an azure blood field. It was strange and oppressive. Aoki smiled faintly. Then, the towering tree behind him suddenly stretched out countless vines and wrapped around the blood-colored figure. Tyrant Blood coldly snorted. The blood-colored figure slashed with its blade. Like an ancient general, it domineeringly chopped the vines into powder. However, Aoki's vines were very strange. Just as the vines were chopped off by the blade, new vines rapidly grew out from the cut. Even if a wildfire could not burn them out, they would grow again when the spring breeze blew. The vine's ability to grow was too strong. Even though the blood-colored figure used all its strength, it was still unable to break free from the vines. In the end, it was actually wrapped into a ball by the countless vines, just like a cocoon. Aoki's lips curled into a smile. However, his smile quickly froze. The cocoon-like vines suddenly emitted a bloody light. Then, these tenacious vines suddenly scattered into powder. Tyrant Blood, who had just come out, looked at Aoki with a grave expression. His blood-colored eyes were filled with dread. Rumble! Wherever the bloody light spread out, endless ripples spread out. No matter if it was a tall mountain peak or a short valley, everything was razed to the ground by the bloody light. The outer barrier of Rattan Armor City was finally affected by the bloody light. Only a clear cracking sound could be heard. The entire barrier shook violently the moment the bloody light came into contact with it. Countless experts in the city swayed unsteadily before finally managing to stand firm. After the bloody light passed, a section of the vines that had just been chopped off by the blood-colored figure landed on the barrier. This section of vines took up almost a third of the surface area of Rattan Armor City. When the vines smashed onto the barrier, an even more violent vibration suddenly sounded. Immediately, everyone was shocked to discover that the ground in the city had actually started to crack under this impact. Like a spider web, it spread throughout the entire city. With a cracking sound, the outer barrier actually started to crack under the impact of the vines. Everyone, increase your output. We must protect this layer of barrier. If the barrier breaks, we will all die. Guyu Tian also saw the crack on the barrier and shouted loudly. He channeled all the Yuan power in his hands into the crystal core of the formation. At this critical moment, the other practitioners also unleashed their potential and channeled all the Yuan power in their bodies into the crystal core. In the process of continuously pouring in Yuan power, the speed at which the cracks were spreading on the barrier also gradually came to a stop. Finally, under the combined efforts of everyone, the vines bounced back into the nearby fields, instantly smashing a huge deep hole in the field. Looking at the deep hole that appeared not far away, everyone in Rattan Armor City couldn't help but feel their hearts tremble. 4 Supremacy Realm warriors were too terrifying. Just a little bit of the aftermath almost took all of their lives. In the city, Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and stared at the blood-colored figure that was hundreds of feet tall and the towering tree that was like a pillar supporting the sky. He could feel that the blood-colored figure and the towering tree were the armor souls of the two experts. He didn't think that the armor souls of warriors could reach such a terrifying level. Can armor souls reach such a terrifying level? Zhuowen couldn't help but murmur. Kid, your knowledge is too shallow. When a warrior's cultivation reaches the ultimate emperor realm, the armor soul in their body can materialize. Its power can be said to be terrifying. These two experts' cultivations are at the 4th Supremacy Realm. After the armor souls in their bodies materialize, there isn't much of a difference between their strength and their bodies. In other words, they have an additional 4th Supremacy Realm warrior assisting them. This is why twin armor soul warriors are so valued in the Heavenly Armor continent. Once their cultivation reaches the ultimate Emperor realm, they can materialize 2 armor souls. In other words, they have 2 helpers of equal strength out of thin air. Needless to say, warriors with 3 armor souls are even more powerful. If your cultivation reaches the 4th Supremacy realm, these 2 might not be your match even if they join forces. It's a pity that you are too weak. Xiao He sat on Zhuowen's shoulder at some point and stretched lazily as she chuckled. Chapter 106. Holy Ice Flame Rune. Above the small hill, Tyrant Blood, whose body was covered in blood armor, looked fearfully at the green figure floating in the air. Aoki, you're very strong, but do you think you can defeat me like this? You'll know once you try, Aoki said indifferently. Tyrant Blood's face immediately became serious, and he said indifferently, I won't hold back. This time I'll use my full strength. Either you die or I die in this battle. After he finished speaking, Tyrant Blood's aura soared. Both of his fists were covered in a demonic red glow. Tyrant Blood lightly waved his fists, and a strange trace appeared in the air. The energy fluctuations faintly emitted caused the surrounding space to tremble. Tyrant Blood let out a loud roar and shot towards Qing Mu. Blood-soaked Sky Tyrant Fist. A suppressed roar sounded out from Tyrant Blood's throat, and at the same time, an intense blood-red light spread out from his body. At this time, Tyrant Blood's entire body was covered in blood-red light, and he looked like a demon god bathed in blood. A fierce and tyrannical aura burst out from his body, and his scarlet eyes coldly stared at Aoki, and his figure flashed. Only the terrifying sound of wind breaking could be heard, and Tyrant Blood's iron fists that were covered in bloody light shot towards Qing Mu, as if they could pierce through the heavens. Aoki could no longer maintain the calm expression on his face, and it was replaced with a serious and uneasy expression. Aoki put his palms together, and in an instant, he formed a few complicated seals. Ashwood Prison Seal, Aoki shouted, and a strange green seal suddenly flew out from his hands, shooting into the towering tree behind him. Following that, the towering tree suddenly grew crazily as if it had been injected with chicken blood. Countless vines immediately surrounded Aoki, and in front of him, they formed an oval-shaped green wooden shield. There were at least a few hundred of them, and they were layered in front of Aoki. "Do you think this broken wooden shield can block my blood hegemonic fist?" Tyrant Blood roared, and his whole body crashed into the wooden shield like a god or a devil. Waves of invisible ripples unceasingly vibrated in the air, causing the surrounding space to become unstable. From this, one could see how intense the collision between the two was. Boom! Boom! 3 thunderous booms rang out, and the seemingly indestructible wooden shield in front of Aoki was instantly smashed to smithereens by Tyrant Blood's fists. Aoki's face didn't reveal any surprise. He had already expected that a single wooden shield wouldn't be able to block Tyrant Blood's blood-soaked Sky Tyrant fist. However, there were hundreds of wooden shields in front of him. At this moment, Tyrant Blood's aura was like a rainbow. His body was as agile as a flood dragon, and his footsteps were as steady as a mountain. The blood-soaked Heaven Tyrant fist was like a spear that would never turn back as it pierced through the wooden shield. Although the wooden shield was like paper under the blood-soaked Heaven Tyrant fist, the recovery ability of the wooden shield was too strong. Even if Tyrant Blood broke dozens of wooden shields in an instant, the wooden shield would recover in the blink of an eye. Tyrant Blood knew that he had to break all the wooden shields in front of him before he could touch Aoki. Victory and defeat would be decided at that moment. "Looks like I can only use that move?" Tyrant Blood muttered to himself. Then, he fiercely bit his finger, and a stream of bright red blood immediately poured out. The strange thing was that the moment the blood came out, it instantly adhered to Tyrant Blood's fists, forming a layer of blood-colored cuticle on his fists. It looked abnormally strange. At this moment, Tyrant Blood's face was slightly pale. Just now, he had used his own blood essence to trigger the innate skill of Savage Blood Armor, Berserk Transformation. This innate skill could instantly increase his strength by several times. However, the side effects were too great, so he wouldn't use it unless it was absolutely necessary. A bloody light suddenly shot out from Tyrant Blood's fist. Then, Tyrant Blood's entire body expanded by several times. Coldly looking at the wooden shield in front of him, Tyrant Blood unceremoniously swung his fist. A blood-colored energy pillar instantly shot out from his fist towards the wooden shield. With a loud boom, this energy pillar actually pierced through all the wooden shields in an instant, flying directly towards Aoki. Aoki's face suddenly changed. He tilted his body to the side, avoiding a vital part of his body. However, his abdomen was pierced by the energy pillar, and blood instantly gushed out like a raging river. After piercing through Aoki, this energy pillar instantly reached the top of Rattan Armor City. Many of the experts in Rattan Armor City noticed this blood-colored energy pillar, and their faces couldn't help but turn pale. At this moment, on top of Rattan Armor City's walls, Gu Yu Tian's face was solemn. Behind him, there were many rows of warriors. These warriors were continuously channeling their energy from their bodies into the 3 formation crystals. Standing at the front, Master Kuraki's face was solemn. With a wave of his right hand, he took out a dozen blue formation crystals from his sleeve. These are the Grade 3 defense formation crystals that this old man has saved up over the years. I didn't think that I would have to use them today. With a trace of helplessness on his face, Master Kuraki fiercely crushed them. Then, the blue powder immediately formed a blue light screen outside Rattan Armor City. The speed of the blood-colored energy pillar was extremely fast. When the blue light screen formed, the energy pillar had already unceremoniously hit the light screen. With a loud boom, ripples actually appeared on the blue light screen. At the same time, traces of cracks continuously spread on the light screen. It was obvious that the light screen couldn't hold on for long. Gotcha! The blue light screen only held on for a quarter of an hour before it began to crack inch by inch. Then, the blood-colored energy pillar hit the barrier behind the blue light screen. The moment the blue light screen was broken, Master Kuraki spat out a mouthful of cherry-red blood. His expression became dispirited. Boom! the entire Rattan armor city shook violently once again, and a crack appeared on the outer barrier again. At this moment, Gu Tian's face was extremely anxious. If this energy pillar hit Rattan armor city directly, although it wouldn't destroy the entire city, at least half of the city would be destroyed. After all, this was the aftermath of the all-out attack of 4 Supremacy Realm warriors. At this moment, the dozens of warriors behind Gu Tian all spat out blood. Master Kuraki, who was originally dispirited, got up again and shouted, "Everyone, work together to change the direction of the energy pillar." The dozens of warriors shouted in unison, then once again overdraft the energy in their bodies and frantically channeled it into the formation crystals. In the end, when all the warriors couldn't hold on any longer, they finally changed the direction of the energy pillar the moment the barrier broke. With a boom, a mountain not far from Rattan Armor City was instantly turned into a huge crater by the energy pillar's impact. Seeing the power of the energy pillar, all the warriors in Rattan Armor City secretly wiped the sweat off their foreheads. One had to know that this energy pillar had been greatly weakened by Aoki's resistance. In addition, it had been weakened by everyone's barrier. In the end, it was still able to cause such great damage. Just how strong was this energy pillar's true power? In the air above the hill, Aoki clutched his abdomen. His face was pale, and there was a trace of disbelief in his eyes as he looked at Tyrant Blood. "Aoki, you've lost." Tyrant Blood's face was pale as he looked at Aoki, who was on the verge of collapse. "Lost? So what? The person who will die in the end is still you, and the holy symbol will belong to me." As he spoke, Aoki took out a red origin crystal from his bosom. The moment the origin crystal appeared, a blazing energy wave swept through the air. "This is a Tier 5 origin crystal?" At this moment, Tyrant Blood's face revealed a look of shock for the first time. "It's made from the core of a Tier 5 origin beast, the Heaven-Destroying Phoenix. This origin crystal is called the Heaven-Destroying Raging Flames. It should be your honor to die under the Heaven-Destroying Raging Flames." A trace of madness and pity appeared in Aoki's eyes. "You lunatic! This daddy doesn't want to play with you anymore." Tyrant Blood's eyes were filled with fear, and he actually turned around to flee. Aoki laughed sinisterly and said crazily, "You think you can escape? It's just a pity for this origin crystal." After speaking, Aoki immediately raised the origin crystal and chanted a cryptic incantation. Following that, a loud phoenix cry resounded through the sky. Following that, surging flames surged out from the origin crystal in Aoki's hand, and finally transformed into 100 zhang tall fire phoenix. The 100 zhang tall fire phoenix blotted out the sky at this moment, and what everyone in Rattan Armor City saw was a sky full of flames. Fear gradually filled everyone's hearts. The moment the fire phoenix appeared, it directly tore through the air and chased after Tyrant Blood, as fast as the wind and as fast as lightning. Looking at the fire phoenix that was getting closer and closer, the fear on Tyrant Blood's face became more and more intense. Seeing that the fire phoenix was about to catch up to him, Tyrant Blood's eyes revealed a trace of decisiveness. "Since I'm going to die anyway, I'll go all out." His right hand suddenly patted the Qianquan bag at his waist, and he took out a small black box the size of a palm. After that, he opened the black box without the slightest hesitation, and a palm-sized talisman appeared in his palm. The talisman's appearance was very strange, and the colors on both sides were completely different. The left side was a fiery red, while the right side was an icy blue. In the center of the talisman, there was a strange pattern that was mixed between the red and blue colors. A strange aura that was neither hot nor cold rushed out from the talisman. In the distance, Aoki, who was floating in the air with a victorious expression on his face, also noticed Tyrant Blood's actions. When he saw the talisman, his face revealed an expression as if he had seen a ghost. "Tyrant Blood, are you crazy? You actually dare to use the Saint Talisman? Once a mortal body that has not undergone baptism uses the Saint Talisman, the final outcome will be very miserable. The corner of Tyrant Blood's mouth twitched, and he said with a sneer, "Since I'm going to die anyway, it's worth it to be able to drag you down with me." Saying that, Tyrant Blood no longer spoke, and his right hand suddenly took out the Saint Talisman. Shortly after, a soaring flame erupted from his left hand, and an extremely cold aura spread out from his right hand. His face darkened, and Tyrant Blood fiercely injected the two opposing energies into the talisman in front of him. The raging flame entered the red region of the talisman, and the cold ice entered the blue region. At the same time, an extremely tyrannical energy was suddenly emitted from the talisman. The aura of this energy even surpassed that of the fire phoenix that covered the sky. Chi. A slight sound slowly rang out from the talisman. Soon after, the extreme heat and extreme cold energy in the two regions of the talisman actually slowly fused together. After that, the strange pattern in the center of the talisman abruptly condensed into a dazzling ball. The ball's surface was overflowing with light, and countless rays of light sizzled on its surface, as if it was about to explode. At the same time, an intense pressure was emitted from the ball. Damn! This aura, could it be the legendary Ice Flame Saint Talisman? Chapter 107. A mysterious figure, Holy Ice Flame Talisman? What's that? Yuan glanced at Xiao He, who was jumping around on his shoulder as if she had taken an aphrodisiac, and a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. Isn't it hard to explain now? Anyway, even an Emperor Realm expert can't ignore this kind of treasure. No wonder these two Reverend Realm experts are fighting with their lives on the line. It's because of the Holy Ice Flame Talisman. Kid, you must get this thing. The Holy Talisman has indescribable benefits for both you and me. Zhuowen picked his ears and rolled his eyes speechlessly. Xiao He stood on his shoulder and kept roaring in his ears. Even he felt his ears buzzing. It was quite ear-piercing. I say, you must be joking. Those two guys are 4 Reverend Realm experts. Let alone me, even Vine Armor City's City Lord Gu Yu Tian would be blasted to pieces if he went there. If you want to die, don't come looking for me. Zhuowen couldn't stand Xiao He, who was yelling on his shoulder, and suddenly pulled her down. However, his gaze was rather serious as he looked at the increasing pressure and energy in the distant sky. He could feel how powerful the talisman in the blood-red armor expert's hand was. Although he didn't know anything about the holy talisman, the power that it was displaying right now was enough to make him fearful. Kid, just because you don't have a way doesn't mean that this Dragon Lord doesn't have a way either. The holy talisman's aura is unimaginably helpful to spiritual bodies. This Dragon Lord is going all out this time. No matter what method I have to use, I must get the holy talisman. Xiao He suddenly broke free from Zhuowen's hand and jumped up onto his shoulder again. She stood up on her hind legs and put her paws behind her back. She wanted to create the image of a lonely expert. Zhuowen glanced strangely at the pretentious Xiao He on his shoulder. Especially when he saw Xiao He's lonely pose and the lonely and melancholy expression on its face. He felt that something called integrity in his heart had completely disappeared at this moment. Fortunately, he was in a relatively hidden position. Otherwise, if others saw him, he would lose a lot of face. Brat, what's with that look in your eyes? No matter what, I have to take that holy talisman. Brat, lend me your body. Don't resist. Xiao He's eyes suddenly turned serious. Then, it waved its 2 paws gently, and a thick black fog immediately enveloped the man and the dog. Tyrant Blood, you'd better stop using the holy talisman. Otherwise, you won't be able to live either. In the air above the hill, the fear in Aoki's eyes grew even more intense. As the hall master of a branch hall of the Blue Dragon Hall, he was well aware of the power that a Saint Rune could produce. Such power was something that even he could not withstand. Pooh! A mouthful of blood was spat out from Tyrant Blood's mouth. At the same time, the blood-red armor that had condensed on his body shattered with a cracking sound. A cloud of blood sprayed out from his body, but the corners of Tyrant Blood's mouth hooked up into a smile. So what if I die? Before I die, being able to drag a piece of trash from the Blue Dragon Hall down with me is not a bad thing. After saying that, Tyrant Blood suddenly crossed his arms and pushed out his palms. The talisman floating in front of him suddenly emitted a bright light, and the dazzling ball whizzed out under the force of the light, heading straight for the fire phoenix that almost covered the sky. Boom! The dazzling ball was only the size of a palm. Compared to the fire phoenix that covered the sky and earth, it was almost insignificant. However, when such an insignificant ball came into contact with the fire phoenix that was so huge that one could not see the end of it, it actually exploded with an intense energy that left one dumbfounded. Dazzling multicolored lights suddenly appeared in the sky. These lights were like balloons that were constantly inflating. In an instant they swelled up thousands of times. The dazzling multicolored energy exploded one after another, and the violent vibrations and sounds merged into a cacophony of noise in the sky. In Rattan Armor City, regardless of whether it was cultivators or ordinary people, everyone covered their mouths and noses at this moment. However, just covering their mouths and noses was of no use. The violent energy fluctuations had already caused some weaker cultivators to bleed from their 7 orifices. There were even some who could not withstand the fluctuations and exploded to death. Without the protection of the barrier, everyone in Rattan Armor City was as fragile as a piece of paper. Even if it was just a trace of the aftermath, some of the weaker cultivators could not withstand it at all. Guyu Tian seemed to have lost his soul. Looking at the cultivators who had fallen on the city wall, his mind suddenly buzzed. Looking at the huge energy that was about to sweep over from afar, he knew that his city was about to be destroyed, along with everyone inside. The attack of the 4 masters was not something that they could withstand at all. Master Kuraki seemed to have aged a lot at this time. The destruction of the blue light curtain and the city protection primary array had consumed most of his mental strength. At this time, he did not even have the strength to stand up. He also saw the shockwaves caused by the continuous explosions in the sky. The powerful energy wave was about to reach Rattan Armor City. He knew that under the impact of that kind of energy, Rattan Armor City would only end up in ruins. What a joke! I have just taken in a talented disciple. Before I can show off in front of the old guys in the Arcane Guild, I'm going to die. This ending is really a little funny, but it's a pity for Zhuowen. His talent is much higher than mine. If he continues to develop, his achievements will definitely not be low. What a pity! Master Kuraki's lips curled into a bitter smile as he muttered to himself with a slight sigh. Father! A beautiful figure suddenly appeared on the city wall. In a flash, she came to the side of Guyu Tian, who seemed to have lost his soul in the corner. Why are you here? Didn't I already send you and Gu Xian away in advance? Why are you back again? And Gu Xian also came back? The 2 of you are the blood of our Gu family. I can't let you sacrifice yourselves for no reason. This beautiful figure was Guyu. Guyu Tian's eyes flashed. Looking at Guyu, who was standing in front of him, his expression suddenly changed and he shouted sternly. I can't leave my father behind and go alone. Anyway, Big Brother has already left Rattan Armor City in advance. He alone is enough to continue the bloodline of our Gu family. I just want to be with my father in his last moments. Guyu's beautiful eyes were full of determination. She stepped to Guyu Tian's side and her voice was full of determination. Sigh. It's too late for you to leave the city now. The battle between the 2 powerhouses has reached its climax and the aftermath of the battle is about to affect our Rattan Armor City. I don't think we can hold on to this city anymore. Guyu Tian gently rubbed Guyu's hair and a rare trace of kindness appeared in his eyes. Crackle! A strange and ear-piercing sound came from afar. Gu Tian and his daughter raised their heads and discovered to their shock that the explosion of colorful energy was now only less than 10 miles away from them. They could even clearly feel a strange sensation that was neither hot nor cold being transmitted from the energy. It was a strange sensation that was neither hot nor cold at the same time. No matter what, we have to put up a desperate struggle. A sliver of struggle surfaced on Gu Tian's face. Shortly after, he fiercely stomped his foot. Like a moth darting into a flame, his majestic figure shot towards the incoming energy clump. Both his palms fiercely extended upwards, as all the yuan power in his body was completely drawn out. Earth-shattering palm. A roar was suppressed from his throat. Immediately, earthen yellow energy gathered in his palms. After which, he suddenly slammed his palms down on the ground. Immediately, the ground began to tremble, after which, a mountain that was thousands of feet tall suddenly rose from the boundless ground. It was as if it had been pulled out from the ground. Rumble! The five-colored energy cluster collided with the mountain without any hesitation. The energy cluster once again burst into a riot of colors, and the entire energy cluster swelled up again. In an instant, it swallowed the entire mountain, and in the end, only a pile of gravel and powder was left on the spot. Pop! Gu Tian groaned and flew backwards while clutching his chest. In the end, he was embedded in the city wall and cherry-red blood slowly flowed from the corner of his mouth. Looks like there's no hope. A dark and gloomy color surfaced in Gu Tian's eyes as he was embedded in the wall. He once again coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood and laughed self-deprecatingly. Just as Gu Tian was in complete despair, a figure suddenly appeared in the sky above Rattan Armor City. The figure was thin and tall as it quietly floated in the sky and faced the incoming colorful energy ball. In Rattan Armor City, everyone's gazes were attracted by this figure. When they saw this figure clearly, their eyes were filled with doubt and surprise. This was because this figure was actually surrounded by a strange ink-black fog. At a glance, one could only vaguely see the figure within the fog. The only distinguishing feature of this figure was the pair of sharp dark golden eyes. Even the ink-black fog could not hide the dark golden color of the eyes. Who is this person? Does he intend to help our Rattan Armor City withstand that terrifying energy ball? Sigh. Our Rattan Armor City's fate has come to an end. You should know that those two people are four supreme beings. Although we can't see through this person's aura, it will be quite difficult for him to withstand the attacks of four supreme beings. Discussions also quietly rang out. Although many people in the city had some doubts about the figure that suddenly appeared in the sky above the city, a glimmer of hope appeared in everyone's eyes. Deep in their hearts, they had extravagant fantasies that this figure could withstand the oppressive five-colored energy ball. Even if it was only a glimmer of hope, they were unwilling to give up. In the sky above, the black figure was expressionless. His dark golden eyes suddenly exploded with an intense light. Then, the ink-black fog around his body suddenly rolled. The figure waved his right hand and the endless fog suddenly condensed. Finally, under everyone's gaze, it turned into a huge ink-black dragon that was thousands of feet long. The huge dragon roared and suddenly rushed towards the five-colored energy ball. Then, a dazzling light slowly bloomed in the sky above Rattan Armor City. Finally, there was an endless silence. Chapter 108. Aoki, he blocked it? This person was actually able to block such a powerful energy all by himself. Could it be that this person is also a fourth reverend? On the city walls, Gu Tian, under the support of Gu, came to the top of the wall. Looking at the black figure quietly standing in the air, his entire body couldn't help but tremble. That was because of excitement. Sir, may I ask for your name? Today you have saved the entire Rattan Armor City. I am the City Lord, Gu Tian. On behalf of the entire Rattan Armor City, I sincerely thank you for your help this time. Gu Tian suddenly knelt on the ground. His voice trembled with excitement and gratitude as it slowly spread throughout the entire city. "My name is Black Dragon. This time, I'm not here for Vine Armor City. I'm just here to help. My goal is those two guys." The black figure pretentiously pointed at a small hill not far away. His voice carried a trace of vicissitudes of life. With that, the black figure took a step in the air, and an invisible ripple spread from the tip of his foot. Then, the figure shot toward the small hill like an arrow. "Thank you, Master Black Dragon. You will forever be the benefactor of Vine Armor City." Gu Yu Tian crossed his arms and bowed respectfully to the departing black figure. As soon as Gu Yu Tian finished speaking, countless cultivators in Rattan Armor City erupted into cheers. All the cultivators knelt on the ground and bowed to the departing black figure like Gu Yu Tian. Their eyes were filled with respect and excitement. "Thank you, Lord Black Dragon." On the city wall, Gu Yu Tian stood beside Gu Yu Tian. Her beautiful eyes were filled with confusion as she watched the black figure leave. She did not know why, but the figure that emerged from the rolling black fog gave her a rather familiar feeling. Is it just my imagination? Although their figures are somewhat similar, the difference in cultivation between the two is simply too great. How could this lord be him? Gu Yu said with a self-deprecating smile. "Xiao He, aren't you being a little too pretentious? I can't stand it anymore. However, I didn't expect you to be able to block that five-colored ball of energy." A clear voice sounded from within the black mist, and it carried a trace of complaint. "What do you know? That's called the demeanor of an expert, understand? I really don't have anything in common with you. If it weren't for the holy talisman, why would this dragon lord waste his source energy on you? If I don't get the holy talisman this time, I will really suffer a great loss." Another exasperated voice came from the black fog at the same time. It wasn't difficult to discern that the two voices belonged to Zhuowen and Xiao He. Back then, in order to obtain the holy talisman, Xiao He had not hesitated to exhaust her own essence to forcefully enter Zhuowen's body, causing Zhuowen's strength to soar. Is the holy talisman really that important? To actually let a miser like you use up your source energy? What a short-sighted brat. As long as one is an expert, there is no one who doesn't want to obtain the Saint Talisman. It's said that the Saint Talisman is related to the secret of becoming a god. As for the details, we'll talk about it after obtaining the Saint Talisman. Now that you have this Dragon Lord's source energy, your strength can be considered to have reached the fourth supremacy realm. It should be more than enough to deal with those two fellows who are already seriously injured. All right, let's go over and take a look. The collision just now could be said to be earth-shattering. I wonder what happened to those two experts in the end? After speaking, the black fog figure stepped into the void again, and his speed increased by a large margin. In a short while, he arrived above the small hill. At this time, the small hill had been completely razed to the ground. The place where the hill originally stood had become a bottomless pit. Looking at the terrifying pit underground, even Zhuowen could not help but gasp. What a powerful destructive force! It can actually form such a huge pit. Hee. This is the destructive force caused by the Saint Talisman. The strength of the Saint Talisman has been tested by countless experts. In the past, this Dragon Lord heard of an expert who possessed the Saint Talisman. With the help of the Saint Talisman's power, he only needed one move to instantly destroy an entire empire and turn it into ruins. Compared to that expert, this destructive force is just child's play. Xiao He's voice slowly sounded. It's so terrifying. Looks like I have to re-evaluate this so-called Saint Talisman. Zhuowen could not help but reply in surprise. Bang! Tyrant blood! I want to kill you. I didn't expect that in the end, I would be forced to use the life-saving treasure that Lord Chief Hall Master had given me. A cyan figure suddenly broke out of the ground from a small valley below. He looked quite embarrassed. At this time, His face was full of gnashing teeth. However, when the green figure raised his head and saw the strange human figure covered in black mist floating not far away, his words came to an abrupt halt. His gaze was filled with vigilance as he stared at the black figure. The green figure was Aoki, who had just fought with tyrant blood. At this time, Aoki was in a rather miserable state. Cracks had already appeared on the green armor on his body. The towering tree that he had summoned had also been destroyed in the previous battle. His entire aura was somewhat dispirited. Could it be that you're also someone sent by the Divine Academy? Are you planning to save that fellow tyrant blood? Aoki could also feel the powerful aura from the black figure. That aura had actually reached the level of the fourth reverend realm. This caused Aoki to become even more vigilant. Divine Academy? Within the black mist, Zhuowen's dark golden eyes narrowed as he softly muttered. The words Divine Academy were unfamiliar to him. Or rather, he had never heard of it before. However, from the words of the man in green armor, Zhuowen was able to guess that the excellent Divine Academy should be a power. And the expert in red armor, Mingba Shui, who had just fought with him, should belong to this so-called excellent Divine Academy. Furthermore, to be able to possess the strength of the fourth reverend realm, Zhuowen could imagine that the Divine Academy's influence was definitely quite rich. Brat. The holy symbol isn't on this guy. It should still be on tyrant blood. I can feel the aura of the holy symbol not far from here. Don't get entangled with this guy. We need to quickly find that tyrant blood. Xiao Hei's urgent voice suddenly rang out. Zhuowen lightly nodded his head. He glanced at Aoki, who was not far away, and said indifferently, I'm not someone from the Divine Academy. My goal is only the holy symbol. When Aoki heard this, he first relaxed. Soon after, his heart tightened again. He had never thought that this mysterious expert in front of him would also come for the holy symbol. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Aoki cupped his hands and said, Since this friend is not someone from the Divine Academy, then there is no conflict between us. This one is Aoki, the Hall Master of the Blue Dragon Hall branch of the Azure Xian Empire. The holy symbol in Tyrant Blood's hands is the guardian item of our branch. I don't know why, but it was actually stolen by that guy. Therefore, I hope that this friend can give our Blue Dragon Hall some face. If this friend is willing to give up the holy symbol, this one will give you a generous reward. Furthermore, I can even recommend you to the Grand Hall Master. With your strength, you can definitely become a branch Hall Master. What do you think of this one's suggestion? Within the black fog, Zhuowen's dark golden pupils shrank. He had never thought that this expert named Aoki would actually be someone from the Blue Dragon Hall. Furthermore, he was a branch hall master stationed in the Azure Xian Empire. It could be said that he had a high position and authority. Brat. The Blue Dragon Hall seems to have a feud with your family, right? Now that you've met someone from the Blue Dragon Hall, how do you feel? Xiao Hei's voice was filled with schadenfreude as he chuckled. I don't feel anything. As long as this guy doesn't provoke me, I won't look for trouble. Furthermore, even with the support of your origin energy, my strength has barely reached the fourth reverend realm. If we were to really fight, neither of us would have an advantage. Right now, the most important thing is to find that tyrant blood. Zhuowen's heart was extremely calm as he spoke indifferently. That's right. Right now, the most important thing is to find that tyrant blood. Otherwise, everything will be for naught. Xiao Hei's voice gradually quieted down. Shortly after, a rather aged voice sounded out from the black fog, causing Aoki to be rather startled. Right now, we should first find that tyrant blood. Right now, we haven't found the holy symbol. All verbal promises are empty. Friend, you're right. Let's find the holy symbol first, then discuss how to split it. Aoki laughed. Shortly after, he walked to a distance of 10 steps away from Zhuowen and continued, Let's go. I think that tyrant blood is heavily injured. With the two of us working together, we should be able to quickly find him. Zhuowen slightly nodded. Shortly after, the two of them deliberately maintained a certain distance and began to search the dense forest below like a carpet. After a while, Xiao Hei's voice once again sounded out in Zhuowen's mind. "Brat, I found him. That guy is hiding in a crevice below the cliff on the left." Slightly nodding his head, Zhuowen cast a sidelong glance at Aoki, who was seriously searching on the right, and indifferently said, "I'm afraid that searching together will be too inefficient. Why don't we search separately? This way the efficiency will be much higher." Aoki also did not expect that the black figure beside him would suddenly speak. At first, he was stunned. Shortly after, he deeply looked at Zhuowen before smiling. "Since friend has said so, then we'll do as you say. Which area do you intend to search?" "The left." Zhuowen's voice was calm. "The left?" Aoki turned his head and looked to the left. That area was basically filled with jagged rocks and precipitous cliff. There was basically no dense forest there. With a puzzled look on his face, he looked at Zhuowen and smiled. "Then I'll go to the right." Zhuowen slightly nodded his head and slowly stepped into the air towards the left. He pretended to look around, as if he was seriously searching for tyrant blood. Aoki slightly narrowed his eyes as he stared at Zhuowen's back. When he saw that there was no abnormality, he retracted his gaze and looked to the right to search. Although Zhuowen was pretending to search, his attention was actually on Aoki behind him. After confirming that Aoki was really far away, Zhuowen followed Xiao Hei's instructions and flew towards the cliff not far away. When he arrived at the bottom of the cliff, Zhuowen indeed found a crevice below. In the crevice, tyrant blood was leaning against the cliff, his body covered in blood and on the verge of death. A trace of pleasant surprise appeared on Zhuowen's face. Just as he was about to approach tyrant blood to search for the holy symbol, a green figure suddenly flashed out from behind him and rushed towards tyrant blood. Chapter 109. The origin of the holy talisman. The green figure behind him was Aoki, who had just separated from Zhuowen. At this moment, Aoki had a strange smile on his face as he shot a glance at Zhuowen. His hands quickly formed a complicated seal. "Friend, many thanks. The holy talisman is the guardian item of our Azure Dragon Branch Hall. We cannot afford to lose it, hee. Ashwood Prison Seal." A low roar came from his throat. Soon after, a green light seal suddenly shot out from his palm and rushed towards Zhuowen. Clang! 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 Countless green wooden shields surrounded Zhuowen. After doing this, Aoki moved his feet and his speed increased once again. In an instant, he arrived at the crack at the bottom of the cliff. Damn it! This fellow must have a treasure that can conceal his aura. Otherwise, this Dragon Lord would not have been fooled by him. However, if he wants to stop this Dragon Lord with these few wooden shields, how laughable! Xiao Hei coldly snorted. Immediately, the countless black fog around his body began to boil. Immediately, the black fog transformed into countless blades that flew in all directions. One could hear a sila sound. The tightly sealed wooden shield prison was immediately turned into countless pieces under the attack of the blades. Zhuowen stepped out of the void and turned his head to look at the cliff. He immediately discovered that Aoki had already entered the crack and was searching for the tyrant blood's corpse. Damn it! That bastard! Zhuowen's face immediately turned ugly. Aoki was so scheming that even Zhuowen was easily fooled by him. This caused Zhuowen to feel a trace of fear towards Aoki. Just as Zhuowen was about to fly towards the crack, Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out in his sea of consciousness. "Brat, don't go first. That tyrant blood is a little strange. When we first found the crack, that fellow should have been leaning against the back wall. Now, he is lying on the ground." Zhuowen's gaze froze. It was indeed as Xiao Hei had said. Tyrant blood's current posture was completely different from before. This caused Zhuowen's heart to involuntarily tremble. Aoki, who was in the crack, also discovered that Zhuowen had escaped not far behind him. A trace of panic appeared on his handsome face. He knew that the strange black figure behind him was also at the fourth reverend realm. Furthermore, he had just fought with the tyrant blood and suffered heavy injuries. If he did not rely on a concealment treasure on him, he would not have been able to snatch it from Zhuowen. It was precisely because of the panic in his heart that Aoki did not discover the abnormality in Tyrant Blood's posture. He thought that Tyrant Blood was completely dead, so he did not guard against him. Just as Aoki's attention was focused on Zhuowen behind him, Tyrant Blood, who was covered in blood like a corpse, suddenly opened his eyes. The corners of his mouth revealed a trace of a strange smile. Soon after, a thumb-sized 5-colored energy ball suddenly appeared in his palm. Aoki, go to hell! Tyrant Blood's eyes slightly bulged. With a wild roar, his palm fiercely slammed towards Aoki's chest. The 5-colored energy ball in his palm violently exploded. This explosion seemed to be a kind of chain reaction, and a dull rumbling sound resounded continuously. Rumble! The chain of explosions continuously resounded in Aoki's chest. With a final bang, the green armor on the surface of Aoki's body suddenly shattered inch by inch, turning into fine powder. Under this attack, a palm-sized bloody hole was actually created in his chest. The bloody hole completely penetrated his chest. Behind him, Zhuowen could even see Tyrant Blood's pale and powerless face, but with a complacent smile. Pooh! Cherry-red blood immediately spurted out from Aoki's mouth. Aoki's face was also lifeless as he looked at the sinister-looking Tyrant Blood in front of him. A sharp voice suddenly came out from Aoki's mouth. Ah! Tyrant Blood, you actually dared to sneak attack me. I'll kill you! Aoki's eyes suddenly became incomparably red. He forcefully circulated the Yuan power in his body to stop the injury on his chest. Soon after, his right hand fiercely stretched out like a snake. Green light filled the air and turned into a thick vine, which was thrown towards Tyrant Blood's head. Raising his right hand, Tyrant Blood used his hand to block this attack. Soon after, his left hand fiercely slammed against the cliff wall. With a rumbling sound, the crack in the cliff suddenly collapsed inch by inch under Tyrant Blood's powerful attack. Aoki! Even if I die, I won't give the holy talisman to you. Tyrant Blood spat out a mouthful of blood. After laughing mischievously, he actually tapped his foot and jumped down into the endless abyss below the cliff. Looking at Tyrant Blood suddenly falling into the abyss, Aoki's heart was filled with anger. He once again spat out a mouthful of blood. Tyrant Blood's attack just now was not an ordinary attack. He had used the power of the Ice-Fire Holy Talisman to forcefully fuse two extreme powers into an explosive energy. Although it was only the size of a thumb, its power was enough to seriously injure 4 experts of the revered realm. Furthermore, Aoki was caught off guard and forcefully took this attack. His internal injuries were definitely much more serious than he had imagined. Clutching the wound on his chest, Aoki fearfully glanced at the silent black figure not far away. He knew that in his current state, it was impossible for him to enter the abyss to look for Tyrant Blood. Furthermore, there was a fully recovered expert of the revered realm in front of him. He knew that his plan to obtain the holy talisman this time was doomed. This friend. You'd better not have any ideas about the holy talisman. Otherwise, the fury of the Blue Dragon Hall is not something you can bear alone. Aoki's expression was filled with unwillingness. However, even in his current state, it was impossible for him to reach the bottom of the cliff. Right now, he could only warn Zhuowen that it was best for him not to make a move to snatch the holy talisman. The current you is already seriously injured, yet you still dare to be arrogant in front of me. Do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? Zhuowen took a step forward, and the surrounding black fog immediately surged. Aoki's expression was startled, and immediately became unsightly. He coldly snorted and said, "Seems like this friend really wants to make things difficult for our Blue Dragon Hall. However, if you want to kill me, I'm afraid that you still can't do it. However, I will remember you." Aoki looked deeply at Zhuowen, and immediately formed a seal with both of his hands. A green light immediately enveloped his entire body, and the green light that enveloped Aoki instantly disappeared in front of Zhuowen's eyes without a trace. This is... Zhuowen was rather stunned as he looked at Aoki, who had already completely disappeared in front of him. This is Wood Escape, a soul skill unique to Wood-type armor souls. As long as there are Wood-type plants within 1,000 miles, he can use Wood Escape to teleport to any location within 1,000 miles. I'm afraid that guy is already 1,000 miles away. Even if we want to chase after him, we won't be able to catch up. Xiao Hei's lazy voice once again sounded in his mind. This soul skill is so abnormal? Doesn't that mean that this person is simply unkillable? With this kind of escaping skill, even if an expert stronger than him were to descend, they wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Zhuowen said in astonishment. Although Wood Escape is convenient to use, its side effects are very big. Furthermore, its limitations are also very small. If there aren't any plants or the like within 1,000 miles, this set of soul skills is completely useless. Therefore, he isn't as abnormal as you think. When Zhuowen heard this, he immediately understood. He nodded slightly and looked down into the pitch-black abyss. He said plainly, I'm afraid the holy symbol is still in the hands of the tyrant blood. Are we still going down to search for it? Of course we want it. Otherwise, wouldn't this Dragon Lord's origin source strength be wasted? We must get the holy talisman. Brat, don't get cold feet. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly became flustered and exasperated as he spoke. All right. Since you're looking for it, I naturally won't shrink back at the last minute. This should be the Absolute Sky Cliff. It's a famous danger zone within Vine Armor City. Below the Absolute Sky Cliff is the perilous inner region of the Annihilation Forest. The inner region of the Annihilation Forest isn't as dangerous as the outer region. There are many Class 2 soul beasts in the inner region. They can be found everywhere. There are even Class 3 soul beasts that appear in the inner region. Furthermore, I've heard that Class 4 soul beasts have appeared in the inner region. That's an existence comparable to an ultimate Emperor Realm martial artist. We need to be extra careful once we enter. Zhuowen looked down at the abyss and spoke in a serious tone. As long as we are careful, we shouldn't be in too much danger. Furthermore, Tyrant Blood has used the power of the holy symbol many times and has fatal injuries in his body. He's already at the end of his rope. He shouldn't be able to run far, Xiao Hei said solemnly. Zhuowen nodded slightly. Then, under the guidance of Xiao Hei's origin power, they slowly descended into the abyss. The deep abyss was filled with a dense white fog. It did not mix well with the ink-black fog surrounding Zhuowen. Furthermore, Zhuowen could feel that the closer they got to the bottom, the lower the temperature. Waves of cold air constantly gathered around the black fog, as if it wanted to invade the black fog. With the isolation of Xiao Hei's origin power, Zhuowen wasn't worried about the cold air from the abyss invading. After looking around, Zhuowen realized that it was a vast expanse of whiteness. Furthermore, he didn't discover any abnormalities. Only then did Zhuowen feel relieved. Xiao Hei, it's time to tell me about the holy symbol. I still don't know what the holy symbol is. Now that they were descending the cliff, they had some free time. Therefore, Zhuowen decided to ask Xiao Hei about the holy symbol. Alright, then I'll explain it to you. There are a total of 9 holy symbols. The power contained in each holy symbol is earth-shattering. As long as a martial artist possesses a holy symbol, every one of them can become an ancient almighty existence. This kind of thing was very common 10,000 years ago. As far as I know, the martial artists who possessed the holy symbol all reached the sage stage in the end. Furthermore, they were at the peak of the sage stage. Their strength was infinitely close to that of a god. Furthermore, according to legend, if a martial artist could gather all the holy symbols, then he might be able to break through the great Tao and become a god with the body of a mortal. Do you think the holy symbol should be obtained? This kind of supreme treasure that even the ancient Almighty fought over, naturally, we can't let it go. Xiao Hei's voice drifted over. Zhuowen's expression became even more shocked. He didn't expect the holy symbol to have such a hidden meaning. If one gathered all the holy symbols, then they might be able to become a god in the end. A god was basically an unreachable existence. In Zhuowen's memory, in the entire heavenly armor continent, there hadn't been a god-level martial artist at all. Even the number of sages were few and far between. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.